Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here, welcome back to Umineko, Episode 7, Requiem of the Golden Witch. Thanks so much for coming by. Hey everyone, good to see you again, it's been a while. Hey Psycho Reaper, congratulations on being first. Hey Kieran, good to see you. Comfy Dreams, thank you so much for the sub, I really appreciate it. 8 months, that's awesome, awesome. Hey Key, good to see you. Neon Ninja, welcome to the stream. Hey Ariakas, welcome. Hey everyone. Good to see you all again. I am back from my eye surgery, and recovery's going well. Procedure went well, a lot smoother than the first one. Hey Ash, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. So, if you're curious about how my surgery went, I'm actually going to be posting a video tomorrow on YouTube. It's like a 10-minute video where I just kind of talk about my experience. That way, I don't have to talk about it here on stream. But again, this is my second eye surgery, so it went a lot smoother than the first time, and plus, the fact that I knew what to expect means that it wasn't really as daunting or scary, although the recovery was still the same length, which is unfortunate. Hey Ariakas, thank you so much for the sub, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for 4 months. So, that's gonna be posted tomorrow morning on YouTube, or if you're watching this VOD on YouTube, it will already be up. I kind of wanted to make it a little bit informative about the procedure and what it was, or if you're just curious about updates about my life. But we are going back into Umineko because I want to finish episode 7, ideally within the next couple of days, so we can move on to our next series and start episode 8 later on. So we're getting near the end of episode 7, and this is the part where they are revealing the backstory of the culprit and everything. However, they're doing it in kind of a roundabout way so that you still need to have some idea of what's going on or some connecting of the dots so you can kind of like figure it out, but still kind of nudging you in the right direction and telling you what's going on. So in the last stream, we are following the story or the backstory behind Yasu. We found out about Yasu and Shannon's friendship, and them being roommates. Yasu decided to ascend and become a witch, while at the same time leaving Shannon behind, thus creating Beatrice. Shannon was left behind. She fell in love with Badler, but Badler promised he would come back for Shannon the next year, but he did not keep that promise because Rudolph separated from, or Asumu died, and it was revealed that Rudolph was cheating on her with Kyrie, so Badler left the family, which means that he did not fulfill his promise to Shannon, while Beatrice and Gop are trying to console Shannon and tell her that everything's going to be okay, that Badler is going to come back. So we're going to find out where this is taking us and how this leads up to the actual day of the Rokonjima massacres. So it's a story of Yasu becoming Beatrice, but told through Claire. It's a little bit confusing, but it kind of makes sense if you've been following along, and if it doesn't, totally makes sense. Hey Mofu, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Umineko's very nostalgic for you? Me too. Oh Ash, you're watching my old Shin Megami Tensei 5 playthrough, and my old chibi model was cute. Oh, I'm glad. I used that one for like half a year, and it was a nice little placeholder. It was fun to use. I did like it. It was very cute. So, our friends made that Shinigami game hit 300,000 units of sales. Well, good for them, I guess. Hey Blue Moss, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I've been getting more people commenting on my Raincoat VODs. I don't know why they're popular compared to other series we've done, but the comments I've been getting have been a mix of either like people angry that I hate the game, or people, there's been a couple respectful people that have been like, oh, I like the game, but I understand if you don't, but this is why I like it. So it's been a little bit of a mix. I don't know why that series is doing so well right now on YouTube compared to some of my other ones, which is a little bit unfortunate because I wish that it was a different series that might be doing better, but whatever. I'm grateful for anyone that stops by regardless. Okay. Kiro's officially a drama VTuber? I hope not. I hope not. Okay, let's continue on the story behind Claire and find out more about what goes on with Shannon back in the past. And, like, even though my eyes have gone through the surgery and I've recovered. My vision's still not, like, perfect crystal clear just yet, so, you know, the words on my computer screen are still, like, slightly blurry, but they're, like, it's good enough I can read it. I can read chat, I can read the game, and the game font is nice and big, so shouldn't be a problem. I want to get back into streaming right away, because I miss you guys. Okay, let's get going. Seriously, why do guys turn into total morons when they get together? Jessica's room was filled with laughter. Oh. Thank you so much for the bits, Kieran. Yeah, don't worry, my eyes are not being strained right now. I just know that it is not perfect right now, but it is definitely fine enough for me to be doing this. Hey, Ditsuna, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Yeah, this is a really, you know, going through Umineko the second time, like, it is a really good novel. I really like the ideas behind it. I love the symbolism and stuff. But going through the second time, and the fact that I'm reading everything out loud, it does kind of highlight the points in the novel where there's a lot of downtime, when there's a lot of exposition and not very many exciting things happening. Like, when the exciting things happen, it's fantastic, and I love those parts. But I forgot how much, like, downtime there was between those parts, especially when I'm reading it out loud. So I'm really grateful for you guys for tuning in. But I love this series. I was also talking with Kieran the other day, but I mentioned this a couple times before, but the translation for this game is actually based on a fan translation, so that's why it's not so much a localization, and some of it is, you know, a direct translation. There's so many, like, little author's notes about Japanese names and symbols and locations. It's because it is a fan translation, which is kind of cool that the fan translation got elevated to official. I think the fan translators are working on Chikonya no Naku Koro ni right now too, so it's cool, but that also explains why, you know, some people told me they don't really like the way that it's written as a translation, and that's because it is technically an amateur translation, which is kind of neat, but it's just kind of something to keep in mind. Hey, Hakaze, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. It was one hell of a reality check. I thought this guy was a bit cool, a bit adult-like, and then I see him with some of the other guys in our class talking about dirty stuff with this creepy laugh. It's true that boys always act like little kids when they're together. Well, it's not like girls are any different. The fun chat between girls continued without end. Tonight, Kraus and Natsui were out late at a meeting on Nijima. Most of the time, Natsui was always watching, so Jessica would always make sure to be curt with the young servants. When Natsui wasn't around, Jessica never did that. She had invited the servants of similar age to her room, and they were chatting away noisily. At that age, everyone wants to know about love. Thanks to the rigid and constricting way Jessica had been brought up, she enjoyed talking about it all the more. But you're pretty incredible, milady, and you're that age. Aren't there any boys you're interested in? Well, I'd love to fall in love, but there really aren't any good ones around. I think you should be a bit more proactive about it. You can act all relaxed now, but that's not gonna last long, okay? Once one of your friends starts going out with someone, it'll turn your world upside down. There's no way that'll happen. None of my friends are traitors. I think. No. The outbreak of love is the one time you can't rely on friendship between girls. If you met someone you liked, you'd betray your friends to go out with a guy without a second thought, wouldn't you? What about you, Shannon? It's not fair if I'm the only one who has to talk. I, don't have anyone like that around. Not around. He's far, far away, like Orihime and Hikeboshi. I don't get to see him very often. In fact, I don't even know when I'll be able to see him again. However, I believe that he'll come for me again someday. I believe it. Don't you betray me, okay, Shannon? If we get boyfriends, we'll get them together, you got that? Right? We promised, right? Well, you might not believe it, but it's not at all rare for girls like Shannon-chan to get a head start. Shannon, confess. You aren't going out with anyone, are you? You aren't, right? I'm not, really. Really? Really? We'll get boyfriends together, okay? No matter what happens, okay? Anyone who lies has to eat porcupine fish. Yes. I promise. Now there's the face of a liar. I'm willing to bet Shannon-chan beats everyone else in this room. I can tell. It's always the quiet ones that go first. You thought of this? Do you think the reason why this girl based off Mamen seems to be friendlier and Shannon, and that's why Mamen gets to be prominent in episode 4? Possibly. I mean, like, if you think about the way that the game's explaining it all, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I still have so much trouble telling all the 7 sisters apart. Like, I can't remember whose name goes with whose, except for, like, if their hair color is significantly different than the rest of them, or if they're Lucifer. Shannon, how could you? Confess, confess! Please stop, milady. That tickles. And so another Sunday afternoon passed by. I worked my way out of the fight and looked up at the sky through the window. Is Badler-san happily chatting away with his friends somewhere right now, just like I am? As I think of you like this, are you thinking of me? But if I ask that, it's the same as admitting that I don't trust you. I'll wait. And when you do come for me, I'll announce then and there that I'm quitting my job. I've already prepared myself to do so. But you haven't come yet. This isn't because you won't come, but because I'm not determined enough yet, right? It's because I haven't clearly envisioned a future with you, right? I'll wait, no matter how long, until you come for me, riding a white horse. I will always treasure our promise, the promise of our precious resolve. Never make a promise with a guy. You can't count on them. Thinking that she had read my mind, I spun around. Of course she hadn't, but... Well, for stuff like that, I think guys and girls have different ideas of what's important. No, that's not it. You've got it all wrong. On the whole, girls tend to be dreamers, and guys just do stuff without thinking. I guess understanding between the sexes is pretty much impossible after all. At least I think it's pretty hard. Girls often have the bad habit of thinking they know exactly what the guy is thinking right away. They search for hidden meanings behind words that guys say for no reason in particular, and just get the wrong idea. Yes, I've known girls like that. Those girls who hear something that anyone else could tell them was trivial, but think it means the guy's totally into them. Yeah, I see it all the time. It's a bit sad when a girl gets the wrong idea for no reason. The pair of them laughed together. When a girl gets the wrong idea, could that be me? No, that can't be. After all, Badler-san clearly made a promise. He said he'd come for me riding a white horse. I mustn't doubt. I'm sure this conversation I'm hearing is just another one of God's trials. So I won't listen. I won't care about it. Yeah, like, I know the 7 sisters are named after the 7 deadly sins and the corresponding demons, but they don't get much screen time, so you don't really get to see much of their personalities, and they're such inconsequential characters that it's just kind of easy to just be like, oh yeah, they all kind of go together. If there's one thing I never want to be, it's one of those poor girls who thinks a guy's heart is linked to hers for no reason. Those demonic sneers tormented me and tried to lead me astray. I'm sure he'll come to me at the next family conference. But Badler-san didn't appear in the 1982 conference either. Bit by bit, things were changing from the way they'd been at the last family conference he'd come to. Everyone had gotten completely used to Kirie-sama, Rudolph-sama's new wife, and she came down off the boat with a familiar stride. Her daughter, Ange-sama, was growing well, and all the family focused their attention on her. Even Maria-sama, though she was still tiny, was already 5 years old. She was full of energy and old enough to enjoy playing with George-sama. Jessica-sama and George-sama had already stopped talking about Badler-san's absence. It was the same with the other relatives too. No one touched on the subject as though they had forgotten that Badler-san was missing. Maria-sama had only been 3 when she'd last seen Badler-san. It was doubtful whether she even remembered him. In just 2 years, all trace of your existence has been erased from the Ushimiya family conference. That made me sad. And so it looks like Badler-san didn't come back this year either. True. Feeling a bit lonely. Well, Uncle Rudolph and Aunt Kyrie didn't even bring him up anymore. It looks like Battler-kun was much more serious about it than we thought. I wonder if he really will stay away forever. It looks like that was him leaving the nest after all. He spread his wings and left for a new stage of life. Don't you think so? He's always been crazy and reckless. Well, what more you'd expect from a guy? Well, we know Battler-kun. I'm sure he's adapted to his new life and is enjoying himself, so I don't think there's any reason to worry. When George-sama said it was that with a smile, I felt a bit uncertain. What does he mean by there's no reason to worry? I'm sure he's enjoying himself. This is Battler-san we're talking about, so you can bet he's forgotten all about us and having a great time. Yeah, I'll bet he is. And I think that's for the best. Thinking for himself, his family, and his late mother, Battler-kun decided on his own to find a new life. So I hope he lives that new life to the fullest. If he forgets about the Ushimiya family, that's just perfect. George-sama smiled at me as though expecting me to agree. After a moment of shock, I smoothed my expression over and found the expression he was expecting. Is Battler-san living happily? Having forgotten about the family? About me? About our promise? That can't be true. It just can't be. Battler-san must be looking forward to that day of decision just like me. I'm not mistaken about that. He promised me. He said he'd come riding a white horse. I never asked him to say that. He said he'd come for me on the day I resolved myself to live life for his sake. He made that promise himself. For 2 years, I believed that. I've done all I could to make it through God's trials and the whisperings of demons that tried to throw me from my path. ACB, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for coming by! And hey Timo, welcome to the stream too! Welcome, welcome! Yeah, good to see you guys again! And yet the things both George-sama and Jessica-sama are saying are so cruel. Battler-san has forgotten about us and started a new life. Why are they telling such lies? That night, I dreamed of Battler-san for the first time in a long while. The Battler-san in my dream wasn't the Battler-san I believed in. It was the Battler-san that George-sama and Jessica-sama had spoken of. The one who'd forgotten everything and started a new life. Morning. I woke up with a tear-stained face. The face I saw in the mirror cried and told me it couldn't have waited any longer. If I've managed to wait this long, why can't I wait longer? This is a trial, so we must believe in him and wait. But the me in the mirror spoke. It was sharper than a fragment of glass. I talk about this promise with him, but did we ever really make such a promise? Wasn't Jessica-sama talking about it? That some girls are dreamers who get the wrong idea? And wasn't George-sama talking about it too? He said that Battler-san had gotten used to his new life and had forgotten about the Ushimiya family. And by now he isn't the only one who's forgotten. Unless I ask about it, everyone on this island has forgotten his name. Even Rudolph-sama doesn't say his name anymore. If I weren't here to remember his face, perhaps his existence would have been erased from everyone's hearts. I don't believe it, so I won't doubt. Battler-san must still remember his promise. We're both waiting for the day of decision. The day we'll be together. Battler-san, I firmly made up my mind. Does the fact you're not here mean that, after all, I'm not determined enough? No. It's because you and God are testing me, isn't it? In that case, I will endure, until that promised day inevitably comes. So please, Battler-san, I want some proof that you haven't forgotten me. No, so this is the time between Battler's last visit to the conference and present day. So this is happening in the interlude. So before Battler, during Battler's very last visit, he promised Shannon that he would come back for her and they had a bit of a romance going, but then he didn't come back and seems to have forgotten about it, but Shannon is still thinking about it. It was the crack that ran across my ceramic-like heart. A had to acknowledge it now. It may be that I'm pretending not to notice something terrifying and sad. Adler-san makes me yearn for him. Adler-san makes me sad. Adler-san makes it hurt. Adler-san, do you still remember me now? One year later. 1983. 3 years until the incident. And then came the third family conference since Adler-san left. If the number of beds was going to increase, we would have been told about that when setting up. The fact that nothing has changed in particular means that he probably won't be here this year either. Clinging to a final bit of hope, I stood by the docks, watching the boat draw closer. Hey, Shannon-chan! You're looking as pretty as ever! Careful, Ange. Watch your step. Hey, Shannon. I really do love Rokkenjima. I can't wait for Uncle Kraus to turn into a resort. There's no need for that. It'll be such a waste. You got a point there. How have you been, Shannon-chan? I think you've gotten a bit taller since last time. Thank you very much. And the weather's good again this year. It's so great having every single member of the family together all nice and cheerful. Please allow me to guide you to the mansion. So after all, Adler-san has been so thoroughly forgotten, he might not have existed in the first place. I'm sure the sadness will show on my face. Not wanting anyone to see it, I turned my back to the family and led the way up to the mansion by myself. Then, suddenly, someone mentioned Adler-san's name, and I jumped. Oh, you saw Badler-kun? How's he doing? Yeah, he's doing very well. I took Ange and had some tea with him the other day. I was surprised. So Kiri-sama was in touch with Badler-san. According to her, both Badler-san and Rudolph-sama had long since calmed down after their fight, but both were so stubborn that they hadn't found a good chance to make up. And since Badler-san had gotten used to living with his grandparents and going to school there, and considering that those grandparents might make things even more difficult, going to convince Badler-san to come home wouldn't be easy. It's just too bad. I think Asumu-san's parents were even more angry than Badler-kun was. This isn't just an issue between Badler-kun and Rudolph-san anymore. Then will Badler be coming back sometime soon? He will make up with Rudolph-san, but it looks like he doesn't intend to return to the Ushimiya family. Such a shame, though I do understand how he feels. It was a bit of a relief to hear some of the bad feeling had died down in these last 3 years. If we take Asumu-sama's parents into account, it's no surprise that things haven't gone as well as they could. But if Badler-san doesn't hate Rudolph-sama anymore, then someday, surely he'll come back. He'll have grown so much. My resolve will not waver anymore. For some nights these past 3 years I felt sad and resentful. And now it feels as though those 3 years were something I needed. After all, the seeds of love, the faint feelings I once had for you, have budded powerfully, waiting for the day that we'll be reunited. This is how honest my feelings for you are now. I love you. I want to see you again as soon as I can. Until that time, I'll keep that bud of love warm and growing for you. I won't doubt the coming of that day anymore. Just as I think of you under the same sky, I believe that you are thinking of me. I'm sure this news about him is a sign that God is cheering me on. So I ask God one more time inside my heart. Since my feelings for Badler-san have not wavered for a day these past 3 years, let me know that he feels the same way. I know that asking for that is a sin. However, now that we've reached a 3-year turning point, I want some gift from God, any gift to show that I have not waited in vain. That is what I prayed. Oh, that's right. It's been so long since Badler-kun last saw you all, right? I thought you might be feeling lonely, so I told him to write you letters. Here they are. Huh? Did God really hear my prayers? I felt as though my heart was going to leap out of my chest. A letter from Badler? Awesome! What did he write? Did he say anything about how he's been doing lately? I can't wait to read it. Kirie-sama pulled a brown envelope out of her bag and handed it to George-sama. Just one? When George-sama opened it, several folded letters came out. Looks like this one's addressed to me. They all have different names on them. Here, this one's yours, Jessica-chan. Thanks! And this one's for Maria-chan. Can she even read yet? I'll read it to her later. Thank you. There's even one for Ange-chan. Now, of course, she can't read. I'll give it to her when she does learn. He says he's doing great and having a blast. Good for him. Is that all of them? Yep. Looks like that's all of them. Thanks a lot. George-sama handed me the empty envelope. Apparently he thanked me because he thought I was offering to throw it away for him. And clearly there was nothing inside it. There was no letter for me. Whoa, the more I read it, the more fun it looks like Ballerkun's been having. Living every day to the fullest. That's what it looks like in mine too. If he's happy, then I guess that's what counts. That's so mean of Ballerkun. It sounds like he forgot all about us until you told him to write those letters, Kirie-san. Well, you know what he's like. It sounds like he was living life to the fullest. And I hear he's popular with the ladies at school too. Wow, that's incredible. There should be plenty of girls who like those hilarious melodramatic lines of his. Makes sense to me. I wonder if he really does plan to not return to the Ushimiya family. It looks like it. In mine, it says he doesn't think he'll return to Rokkenjima again. I knew that all those letters were trials from God. The fact that there was no letter for me, and the fact that he was enjoying life and had forgotten about Rokkenjima, were just more trials. God is testing me. The fact that there was no letter for me alone is proof of that. That's what I want to think. But now it's just too much. It might have been an important promise to you, but it looks like it wasn't for Balor. No way. Then that promise about him coming for you was... It was a dream. It was just an illusion I created. To Balor, they were probably just meaningless words to make him sound cool. To anyone but her, it would have been such a funny story to hear. That promise with Balor might have been an illusion the whole time. In the first place, we don't know if they both felt the same way about each other at all. Love is an illusion. However, if both sides are seeing the same illusion, that love becomes true. However, when the feelings of each side are different, then it's nothing more than a joke. This is Balor's sin. Making Shannon think that it was a promise. Wrong. Huh? It's that he didn't even remember. If he simply broke his promise, I could have taken him to task for it. I could have regretted my mistake, or I could have won him back. However, you can't question someone about something they don't even remember. I am unable to hate Balor-san. After all, Balor-san didn't even break his promise. There just wasn't any promise to start with. It was nothing more than a sad joke. I kept on crying and crying. I dug my fingernails into my pillow, soaking it with my tears. How much easier it would have been to hate something. But I can't hate anything. I just couldn't get over my miserable ignorance, or arrogance, which had led me to believe that for 3 whole years he felt the same as I did. I am to blame for this. My irresponsible words led you to believe that Balor made a promise. No. This isn't anyone's fault. It's all because I assumed that he felt the same way I did. Badler made no promise, and yet his feelings were surely sincere. Though there might have been a difference in degree when compared to yours, it is true he liked you. Of that, there can be no doubt. Please, just stop it. I've believed that he liked me the way I liked him without ever doubting that. Please don't try to cheer me up. I'd rather that you mocked me. Before I knew it, a dull and inescapable pain had pierced my chest. When I pressed my hand against my chest, I realized what that pain was. It was the bud of love, whose seeds I had sown and nurtured in my heart. Its roots had spread all the way across my chest, tormenting me like a metal wire wrapped around my heart. They looked less like roots, but more like fissures running through my heart. I can only hold back the pain by tearing out the root of love. But no matter how much I scratch at it, I'm only scratching at my chest. The root of love doesn't move at all. If I started hating Badler-san without any lingering interest or regrets, I'd be able to pull this root out easily. Once I did, it would probably leave a hole behind, but at least it wouldn't hurt me anymore. But I can't pull it out. Even though it hurts so much, those roots of love are still stuck in my heart. Shannon. Even now, I love Badler-san. I want to see him. I want him to come back. I believe he will come back someday, and I want to wait for him. But right now, it's just too much. As I sobbed, the tightness in my chest grew even stronger. As long as I liked Badler-san, that pain would always continue. Because I like him, I want to hold on to that pain forever. But it was written right there in the letters for George-sama and the others. Badler doesn't plan on returning to the Ushimiya family. He's forgotten about me and Rokujima, and has started a new life with a different name. I must wait for him for all eternity, despite how painful, aching, excruciating this is. Is this another trial? Is God telling me to wait for him forever? I can't do that. I want to be with Badler-san, but if this is the trial that I must go through for that, then it's just too painful. Beatrice hung her head in shame. If she hadn't encouraged Shannon so much, it probably wouldn't have been this painful. Shannon may have been the one to sow the seed of love in her heart. However, Beatrice had irresponsibly watered it and told Shannon not to give up. Beatrice scratched her chest, trying to share Shannon's pain. This is my fault, Beatrice mumbled to herself. What's your fault? For 3 years I tortured you with the illusion of a promise that never happened. If I had not nourished the bud of love within you, you would not have suffered so. Shannon, this may sound harsh, but listen. What is it? Forget Badler. There was no bud of love in the first place. Hey Lork, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for coming by. Yes, it's good to be back. Good to see you too. No, I'm the one who nourished it. No matter how painful it is, I can't forget it. But you cannot bear that pain any longer, can you? Wordlessly, Shannon held her chest and hung her head. Are my eyes supremely powerful now? I hope they will be within a week or two. I love Badler. That feeling burns inside me, so that I still cannot let it go no matter how much it hurts. And I've spent 3 years pretending I didn't feel that pain. Now I know that I feel it. And since I know, I can't bear it. So you cannot throw away your bud of love for Badler. Yes. However, at this rate, the bud, the root, will kill you. People need a universe to survive, and one person cannot create that universe alone. Two are needed. Universe. Together with Balor, you created the universe of that bud of love. Now that one half of that pair is gone, your universe has crumbled. People cannot complete a universe on their own. However, Balor-san, the other person who creates my universe, won't come back. Then you must create a new universe with someone else. You mean create one with someone other than Balor-san? I will give you such a person. Which person? A creature to bury the pain in your heart and heal you. He will not betray you. Yes, let it be a sibling. I will give you a little brother. A little brother. A boy you have always been close to at the Fukuin house, whom you love as if he were your real brother. That I shall give to you. Together with him, you will create a new universe. Will that little brother make me forget about the pain of my love for Balor-san? Correct. You need a universe. Then what will happen to the bud of love in my heart? My feelings for Balor-san won't change. I can't make them wither. I shall accept that bud and those roots in your place. You will? You cannot forget the pain of love and create a new universe. I will accept the bud of love in your place. It means that I will accept the pain as well, but I will learn of the single element I do not possess: love. Beatrice wanted to know love. She wanted to feel what Shannon had felt in the world of humans. And if Balor ever does return, if the bud still has not withered and you still desire it, I shall return it to you. What do you think of that? Still hanging her head, Shannon gave a small nod, but said nothing. It would mean release from this unbearable pain, and it would mean giving the bud of love to the witch to hold in her place. Shannon spread the hands that she had held to her chest. As she did, a faint light popped out of her chest and floated in the air, gradually swallowing everything with its brightness. As the brilliant light began to fade away, Shannon and Beatrice, still facing each other, were now inside a vast starry sphere, like a planetarium. They were the only ones in this pitch-black starry sea. Shannon felt as though she'd seen this place once before, but she couldn't remember. Then I made another announcement. Modify this world. Let the bud of love travel from Shannon to Beatrice. Hey yo, welcome to the stream, good to see you, welcome, welcome. This way Shannon won't be tormented by the bud of love anymore. And furthermore, she will be given a little brother, with whom she can create a new universe. Yeah, the frog that was thrown at me was the bud of love, clearly. The design for the little brother will be a younger boy at the Fukuin house with whom Shannon was close. For a name, let there be the On character, as the Fukuin house rules state. Yeah, I've decided. That's a perfect name to go with Shannon's. He'll be a quiet, reticent boy. He'll come to Rokkenjima as a new servant. There, he'll open his heart to Shannon. As a duty-minded boy who loves Shannon like a big sister, he'll always be there for her. Let's have him be a special servant like Genji, who's permitted to serve Kinzo directly. Yes, that sounds kinda cool. Then, Beatrice, from now on you will carry the bud of love. In other words, the role of being infatuated with Balor and waiting for his return will go to you. While you are still the witch who reigns over Rokkenjima's night, you have also been waiting for Ushimiya Balor ever since that day 3 years ago. Along with this change in setting, I'll give you a new form as well. He did tell us what his ideal woman would look like once, remember? A woman with a good figure and long, golden hair like a foreign model. Golden hair, long hair, a good figure. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, big breasts, clearly. That's what the new Beatrice will look like. Come now, hold that bud of love in your heart as you wait for Battler. This way you will learn of love, in exchange for earning pain. Yes, this will be the setting for my new world. For Shannon, a new servant like a little brother will come. He will be a silent, reticent boy. A duty-minded kid who loves Shannon as a sister. And the bud of love that has tortured Shannon will go to the witch, Beatrice. She will just be holding on to the bud of love for the time being. However, while she holds on to it, she will be a maiden in love with Battler. For that time, you will be able to learn what love is. Come, let the world be modified. Oh, I am one yet many. Awaken us, and stretch your wings in this new world. Slowly, I opened my eyes to the gentle rays of the morning sun. How long has it been since I last saw such a pleasant morning? The face in my mirror is tear-stained and pathetic. However, my heart is as clear as the morning sun. I can still clearly remember that strange dream. However, I could still feel myself forgetting it rapidly. The place I was in my dreams had been such a strange place. A peaceful, calm place. There I had left behind the pain I'd carried in my chest until yesterday. So this morning my heart was at peace. Good morning, me. My tear-stained face really is pathetic. However, my expression is bright and cheery. Even now, I like Battler-san. But for some reason, I've calmed down. It feels like I put something precious safely away, in the place it belongs. Battler-san, when will you come back, I wonder? When you do, I'd like to talk about mystery novels again. Oh, I almost forgot. A new boy servant will be coming today, right? One of the rare servants who will serve the master directly. What kind of kid will he be? I hope we get along well. What was his name again? I'm pretty sure it was, So you can probably see now how things are coming together. 1 year later. 1984. 2 years until the incident. Men in work clothes were spreading a tarp over a section of the hall. From the way they measured the wall and set out tools, it could be seen they were planning some sort of construction project. This is of the utmost importance to the master. Be sure that you do not damage it. The president of the construction company nodded his head several times to show he understood. Then 6 young workers carried in a large rectangular object wrapped in a white sheet. Oh, careful there. Set her down gently. I said gently. Is this the spot? Great, let's get started. Apparently they were putting something large onto the wall of the hall. He plans to hang that thing there. That's what he wants. After all, this mansion is little more than one of Father's toys. Natsui took a deep breath. Though this was a whim of Kinzo's, a man she greatly respected, she seemed to resist the idea of hanging it right here in the entrance hall in the face of the mansion. When the white sheet was pulled off, a Western woman wearing a beautiful dress came into view. It was a massive portrait of a woman. Is it proceeding well? Yes. They will be finished by this evening. I would like to see it hanging there for all to see as soon as possible. I want you overseeing this, my friend. Leave it to me. Father, it seems a splendid portrait. Indeed. Quite exceptional quality. I am satisfied. This is your benefactor, the woman who gave you the gold, right? Indeed. If I had not met Beatrice, I would not be here, nor would the Ushima family, nor would, of course, this mansion. It's only natural that her portrait be displayed in the best possible location. Now that he had said this bluntly, there would be no contradicting him. Kraus and Natsui could only shrug. Master, the epitaph plate is here. Would you please check to see it is all in order? Indeed. Each and every word must be correct. Hey Aru, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Welcome, welcome. Epitaph. Kraus and Natsui crooked their heads and followed Kinzo. The leader of the workers set down a plate wrapped in a sheet. The others thought that the picture's name and description might be on it, but it seemed to have quite a lot of words for that. Father, what is this? Behold, the Sweetfish River running through my hometown. Read and interpret as you like. So we finally reached the appearance of the epitaph in the portrait. I don't know much about this epitaph. It doesn't exist in my world. Probably not. In your world there's already a clear successor. You. And not in this world. In other words, this epitaph was set up to choose grandfather's successor after all. Most likely. Or he might have wanted to believe in the chance of a miracle. A difficult riddle, made so that no one would be able to solve it. If someone actually could solve it, they themselves would be a miracle. Perhaps that miracle would guide this person Kinzo most wanted to solve it. In short, this epitaph really does depict a ceremony to revive the witch Beatrice, just as everyone thought. That does seem to be the obvious interpretation. A mysterious ceremony sacrificing 13 people to revive the witch. However, the true ceremony wasn't that. It lies in wait for someone to miraculously solve it. That is the true ceremony. However, fate does have its irony. Genji already knew. Maybe Kinzo set this up in the first place because he guessed that Genji knew everything. Was that fate a coincidence, or something planned? I do not know. However, with this epitaph, the witch Beatrice will revive in the truest sense. Chapter 8, Journey to the Golden Land. This is Beatrice. My soul was captured by the woman shown in that massive portrait. That might have been literally true, or rather than captured, perhaps it would be better to say that my soul had returned to a more fitting place, the place it belonged. The beautiful blonde hair was the same as mine, but tied up. The dress she wore was a deep black, making that golden hair stand out all the more. This is the witch, Beatrice. My true form. Huh? What is this? There was a plate with too many words for it to be the title of the picture. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. The Golden Land. I see. So my world is the Golden Land. I've always called my own personal world a paradise, but tonight I shall change that. From now on, my world shall be the Golden Land. I am the master of the Golden Land, Beatrice. And then there is the brutal ceremony of sacrifices, starting on the first twilight. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. If I carry out this ceremony, will I revive in the truest sense? Then on the 10th twilight, as journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. 1 shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. Kinzo received a massive amount of gold from Beatrice, and rumor has it it still lies hidden somewhere. Is this, as the family members and servants are all whispering, a code showing the location of Kinzo's hidden gold? If a human solves it, they will obtain a great quantity of gold. However, if I do, it will mean my own resurrection. Kinzo, you aging magician. Just when I was mocking the shortness of the time left you, you start a game like this. How interesting. I'll definitely solve it. Then I will revive as the real Beatrice. When that happens, I will use my great magical power to rule over object and man, day and night, and all of Rokenjima. Yeah, Kinzo's a leprechaun, I guess. If that's what you're getting from this, sure. Everyone says the epitaph is a guide to finding hidden treasure. The rumors tell that the master has 10 tons of gold hidden away. Yes, and Beatrice supposedly gave it to him. I've heard that one too. 10 tons of gold? That would be incredible. I can hardly even imagine it. If you had all that, what would you use it for? I'd like to touch it just once. Oh, forget touching it. I'd like to spend it all. But why would he go out of his way to display this epitaph, this code showing the hiding place of the gold? That's obvious. He's laughing at everyone, since he thinks no one can solve it. It's a challenge to the rest of us, isn't it? He wants to know if there's anyone here wise enough to solve it. It seems that the master doesn't intend to let Kraus-sama take the headship easily. Perhaps the one who solves this will become his successor. Genji-san, what's this? Could this be a portrait of Beatrice? The Beatrice? Correct. This is Beatrice-sama. What on earth? There's a strange little poem-like thing over here. What's this all about? It's almost like a pirate code that shows the way to hidden treasure. Genji-san, what does this mean? The master said to read and interpret it as you wish. That the riddle applies equally to all who can see the epitaph. You said riddle just now, didn't you? That means this could be solved. Yes, that's it. Father doesn't want Nissan to succeed him. So whoever solves this will become the successor. Finally, the tables have finally turned, and I now have a real chance to become head. What do you think, Kyrie? I think it's extremely likely that this epitaph points to the location of the hidden gold. It looks like Aniki thinks the one who solves it will be chosen as the successor. That's another theory that might fit. Father certainly doesn't view Kraus-Nissan as an ideal successor. This might be a huge trick he set up now that he's reaching the end of his years. So if you really solve this riddle, you'll stand to gain 10 tons of gold and the position of successor. On the surface, perhaps. However, I'm sensing some malice, as though he doesn't think anyone capable of solving it. I doubt he made it to be solved easily. True. Huh. Guess we won't have trouble looking for something to do over a drink for a while now. Ridiculous. How could anyone solve this? Rosa tossed aside a notepad with the epitaph written on it and flopped over onto the sofa. Solving this means 10 tons of gold. With that much, I'd never need to worry about schemes for cash again. If I had money, I could pay off my debts, and that man might come back to me. I know where Father's beloved hometown is. In the Sweetfish River. There are many rivers there. What's the village supposed to be? I don't have a clue. What's wrong, Mama? Maria looked concerned. Kids are really good at riddles, so maybe. Hey, Maria. You think you know the answer to this riddle? Maria gazed at the paper with the epitaph on it, as though she was trying to bore through it with her eyes. Her eyes opened wider and wider. What do you think, Maria? I guess it might be a bit too hard for you. This is a witch's ceremony! A resurrection ceremony for Bito! Where'd you get this? Hey mama, where'd you get this? I'm gonna ask Bito. I'm sure this ceremony will let Bito regain her full power. She'll be able to appear in front of everyone and do miracles of magic without having to worry about the anti-magic toxin anymore. Yeah, that outfit on Maria is really cute. And the epitaph? It seems the family members are all competing to solve the riddle. Good. Let everyone try, and none will solve it. Except for the one blessed by a miracle. If I let my guard down, even I might forget the process. That is how difficult it is. Because it is difficult, solving it will bring about a miracle. Precisely. This miracle shall be the last one I desire in my life. My final bit of magic. When a miracle comes and allows one to solve that complicated epitaph, it will surely mean Beatrice's resurrection. Oh, Beatrice, I just want to see your face one more time. I don't need wealth or honor anymore. If I could only meet you one more time. This would be the last bit of magic that Kinzo, who realized he was facing his last years, would ever use. He was betting everything that Beatrice had given him, hoping to meet her just one more time after being separated by death through 2 generations. His meeting with Beatrice that day had been the true beginning of his life. And even with them gone, Kinzo had remained there alone on the stage that had gone dark. The aged monarch had obtained everything, accomplished everything, but this was the one element that always slipped through his fingers no matter how much he struggled. If he could just have that element, he would need nothing else in life. In the end, perhaps his whole life was just a journey to learn that one single element makes up all that it means to be human. My friend, will my life's final bit of magic show me a miracle? For a while, Genji was silent. He wasn't at a loss for words or struggling to find an answer. During that silence, something had passed between the 2 men, who had known each other for so long that their friendship surpassed that of master and servant. No, that will do. No one will solve it. That's why a miracle will occur. Master, please tell me one thing. What is it? If I ask you, if a miracle does occur, it may have been different during his youth, but in his old age, Genji rarely spoke of dreams and what-ifs. When Genji said if, Kinzo quietly waited for the words of the man he called a friend. If a miracle does occur, if your magic comes true, and Beatrice-sama does revive, what will you do? As the one closest to Kinzo, Genji obviously knew of the crazed feelings with which Kinzo had searched for Beatrice in the past, and yet Genji was asking what Kinzo would do if Beatrice did revive. Master, at one time in the past, you experienced the miracle of Beatrice-sama being reborn. If that miracle happened again, what would you do? My friend, so after all you do blame me. I have no way of knowing everything in your heart, and Beatrice-sama's. However, I believe I do understand at least part of the way in which Beatrice-sama adored you. I lament the fact. You may not believe it, but as I have aged, I have come to regret all of it. If a miracle does occur, and Beatrice revives, then of course I do not care if she knows nothing of the time she spent with me in the past. No, as long as she is Beatrice, I don't care who it is. I just want to apologize. Is that truly how you feel? Yes, my friend. I regret it. How deeply I regret those mistakes I made in youth. You have aged as well, so you must know. One cannot feel guilt for the sins of their youth when one is still young. However, like deep thorns, they begin to fester, torturing me. I, Ushimi Kinzo, no longer care how I die. However, this thorn, this regret, is the one account I must settle. I will return everything to Beatrice, and I will ask her to forgive me for my sins. For that is my only and final wish. Oh, Ginzo covered his eyes and sobbed. The aged monarch who had built up great wealth in a single generation was reaching the end of his life. And he could do nothing but sob because he wanted someone to apologize to. Wasn't the epitaph a trial grandfather made to choose a successor? I thought that too at first, but it looks like the situation's a bit different. At this point in time, I also thought it was a trial. That it was a game for selecting the successor, which Umineko decided upon a whim. And it wasn't. This epitaph meant something for Umineko and Rono Genji that only the two of them could understand. So this was not the workings of fate. It was inevitable. I was no more than a Cinderella, with the pumpkin carriage and glass slippers all prepared beforehand. I get it. So this was a farce that Kinzo and Genji set up. Kinzo did understand, and Genji realized that this was a message. I don't have a clue what you mean. What did grandfather understand? And what does Genji-san have to do with this epitaph? The epitaph wasn't solved. Someone was made to solve it. And then Beatrice truly revived. If that revival had never happened, then 1986 would still have come, but the incident might have been completely different. And so, since the time of my birth, I've been trapped by the crossroads of fate, never given the right to make any decisions of my own will. Hey Bubbles, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for coming by, good to see you! Oh, I am one, yet many. And yet we have never been able to resist fate. We are little more than leaves caught in a whirlpool. No matter how we dance, we must eventually be sucked in and disappear. Yeah, I'm doing well, I'm having fun. Glad to be streaming again, it's nice to see you guys again. Cap's the one who specializes in instant movement. She's the 33rd in rank of the Great Demons. You must really be incredible to have a friend like that, Bito. I see. The Great Demon Gop. Very well, my friend. You will now be Gop. You may call yourself by that name. Gop's been going without a name for like, what is it, like 4 or 5 years now? Oh, wonderful. So you've finally given me a name. It's a relief after being nameless for so long. In that case, I would be honored to receive a name as well. Being nothing more than the head furniture lacks flavor, does it not? Maria, I need a name for this guy too. He is also a great demon and serves as my butler. He is a subordinate whom I can trust. Ronov, I guess. The 27th ranked of the Great Demons. It said he'll give you reliable underlings. My, what a coincidence. The family name of my double, Genji, is Rono. Oh, that truly is a coincidence. I see. It seems this is the best possible name for you. Very well. You shall now be known as Ronov. Oh, how pleasant it is to be called by one's name. I thank you for this wonderful name, Lady Maria. Just as a form can be a vessel, a name can be a powerful vessel too. For unknown creatures of the other world, simply gaining a name can greatly increase their magical power. That's why names are important. They should have called him Goop. Gop and Goop. Then who would Virgilia be? Vop. No, she could be Vape. There we go. Gop, Goop, and Vape. Excellent demon servants if I ever heard of any. True, names are important and wonderful. Right, Leah? You can call me Gop now, okay? Gop. A splendid name. I'll remember it. And I'll ask you to stop shortening my precious name. So you're Virgilia, the one who guides travelers to Beatrice. That is also a splendid name. Perfect for milady's teacher. Yes, I do like it a lot. A name is a life. Maria, thanks to you, my friends have found names. I am deeply grateful. Now it's your turn, Bito. Draw pictures of my bunny friends, like you did for Sakataro. Very well. Lend me that grimoire. Uryu, Bito's drawings are really great. I can't wait to see. What it'll be like. I can't wait to see the bunnies. They were in a forced band, were they not? A band. Yeah, something like... All of a sudden, Maria was no longer a little girl who did nothing but follow her mother around, laughing or crying. Though she's still young, she already has a powerful self-image, and possesses enough knowledge of the magical world to surprise even me. Together we called ourselves Marriage Sorcière, and made each other's magical worlds deeper and richer. The duality of Maria, Sakataro and bunnies on one hand, and then Solomonic demons on the other hand. Yeah, they're the perfect OC creation team. The one who draws and the one who comes up with names and backstories, right? So a name can become a powerful vessel. How profound. It's very important to have a form for a vessel, but a name is just as important. Indeed. Those with names leave a greater impression than those without. It's not just about forms and names. By knowing more and more about them, you can make them exist much more strongly. So I'll think of lots of stuff for you. Did you do this for Sakataro as well? Yep. Sakataro isn't just a name. There's a lot more to him than that. He's a lion cub, correct? Sakataro's a Vegeta lion, so he doesn't eat meat. But everyone else thinks he does, and they're scared of him. But Sakataro's also a scaredy cat, so he's just as scared as the others. Sakataro's such a coward. Who are you? I don't eat meat. I'm not a scary lion. Oh, look, a flesh-eating sparrow. Flap, flap, flap. Who are you? Sparrows are scary. Sparrows don't eat meat. Sakataro's a coward, so he thinks they do. Did the sparrow go away? Who are you? You're such a scaredy cat, Sakataro. If you keep this up, Sakusuke and Sakakichi will start making fun of you again, right? Who are you? I'm not a scaredy cat. Ah, the sparrow's back. No, I'll be eaten. Sakataro is quite entertaining. Then are Sakusuke and Sakakichi's siblings. Yep. There's little brothers waiting for him at home. Sakusuke is a lot more reliable than Sakataro. Sakakichi is so skillful he can do anything. But they're all really good friends. They all play together on my bed. Your bed must be covered with lions. Yep. So I call my bed Lion Land. But there's lots of other animals too. Lion Land, is it? It sounds like fun. By interacting together, all of Maria's friends can reinforce their own existence. It's a magnificent world. I guess that means we should work on deepening our relationships as well. By strengthening our bonds, our existence and magical power will go stronger and stronger. Let's expand our world more and more. From what I've heard, Maria's world is far more than just Sakataro and the bunnies. We can't let her beat us. My. In that case, shall we find more minions for ourselves? It's no fun with just the gold butterflies. After all, they cannot speak. I like some chatty minions who can talk, jump around, and fight with each other. True, of course it'll be better to spice things up around here. Here in Marriage Sorcière, we have learned how to expand our worlds and create new minions. By now, you may create new minions as often as your imagination allows. Milady, what about those? Could you make vessels of those dark tools you found when cleaning out Goldsmith's storage room? Oh, perfect. Minions created from dark-looking vessels like that would surely be fitting for me. There will be more and more of us, and it will get very lively here. We'll get more and more new friends. That's my magic. And Bito can take my friends and give them a form. You can make them grow. You create them, and I grow them. Indeed. That's Marriage Sorcière for you. Still, bunny ears are pretty hard. It might take some time before the bunnies manifest themselves. Be sure you make them cute. But of course, this is where I get to show my skill. Create a creature, give it a name, give it a form. Doing that is no different from giving birth to new life. Like a Vtuber! When a human gives birth to a child, they give it a form, give it a name to identify it by, and deepen its character by raising it in the world. Mère Sorcière is doing exactly the same thing. In our world, we can create whatever creatures we think of, give them forms, give them names, and make them friends we can interact with. We were engrossed by our own game in this world called Mère Sorcière. At least, Maria was engrossed. She would badger me to play this game every time she came. And of course, I was too. However, when Maria started happily writing something and I just sat there for a while, I must admit I sighed and looked up at the sky, making sure she didn't notice. It's fun to increase the numbers of our minions. They make things lively, so I do not tire of it. I may have tired of my minions alone, but even that problem goes away when I can interact with Maria's as well. It takes two people to create a universe. I now have that second person, so I am satisfied. I think I'm satisfied. And yet one little part of me is not. It truly is a tiny part. After all, it's so much fun playing with Maria that time seems to fly by. But even so, when I look up at the sky, during those short moments I feel an empty feeling I can't describe. I know, my universe is not complete. My apologies to Maria, but she is not the second person I want to create a universe with. No matter how much I nurture my world with her, the roots of love in my heart leaves gaps. 4 years have already passed since that day. He left saying he'd come for me riding a white horse, and I was the only one without a letter. And he even said he probably wouldn't be returning to Rokkenjima. Is this love? I always believed that love was so much sweeter, so much more intoxicating. But now I don't know anymore. Though I long for him so much it's maddening, I can sometimes feel hatred underneath. However, even that hatred is wrapped in adoration. The roots of love have remained in the corners of my heart all this time. At some point I gave up hoping that Badler would return. However, the roots of love stayed right where they were. In other words, even 4 years later, I still believe. He will come back someday. The flower of my love is curled up and withered as though against the winter cold. However, the root is still alive. And it is always, always waiting for him to return. Waiting for a chance to bloom beautifully again. I'm grateful to Maria. Mère Sorcière has eased the burden on my heart so much. If we hadn't met like this, I may have withered away along with that root. Even this incomplete universe is necessary for me to remain alive now. I must live on until I can create my complete universe. Until that day, I will not be complete. Though I have a form and a name, no matter how deep my world grows, I will not be complete. I am not complete. Ito? I accidentally muttered what I'd been thinking. Maria stopped talking to Sakataro. I regretted my slip of the tongue had ruined this fun time, but there was a long silence before I could smooth it over. I laughed, but it probably sounded hollow. Maria, not knowing why my face had suddenly changed like this, looked taken aback. Though my minions reach deep in this world in their own existences, becoming full, I alone will never be complete. I know why I will not be complete. It's because you don't have enough magical power! Maria answered instantly. Beatrice has lost her magical power and is unable to regain the strength she once had. That's how the story goes, so Maria's answer was correct. That's right. I may be incomplete because I've lost my magical power. In that case, if my power becomes complete and I revive in the truest sense, will my world become complete as well? Does that mean that the person I want to nourish a universe with will come back? If As I claim, I really was able to control miracles at will in the past with my magic. Then if I succeed in reviving, would that miracle definitely occur? If such a thing were possible, I'd want true magical power to use for my resurrection. That's right. It's because I do not possess enough magical power. Poor Bito. It must be pretty inconvenient with your magical power still weak. I want to get it back quickly. My old power. I guess you'll have to do that then. What do you mean by that? The ceremony of resurrection. The ceremony of the portrait's epitaph. If you read that epitaph literally, it does sound like a witch's resurrection ceremony. To Maria, who believes in witches, that epitaph must be a ceremony in itself. Unlike the other family members, it seems she's not very interested in the location of the hidden gold. If that epitaph's riddle is solved, one might learn the location where Kinzo hid all the gold I once gave him. That's the gold you created with magic, right? Indeed. A crystallization of the great magic I possessed in those days. In that case, if you get that gold back, your magical power will go back to normal. Perhaps. It will, It's gotta be your resurrection ceremony. I'll help, so let's solve it together. Then you'll revive. And when you do, you'll take me to your Golden Land. That's right. I did promise I would take you to the Golden Land. You said that all wishes are granted there. There's no black witch there, just a nice mama. And I might even get to meet the papa I've never seen before. Of course, there won't be any school or homework or bullying friends. We can live happily ever after. Hey, Sakataro, doesn't that sound fun? Uryu. The epitaph of the portrait. So I must face the epitaph's riddle after all. If Kinzo's children struggled uselessly over it, how could a complete stranger like me solve it? If I did happen to solve it, that would surely be a miracle. Will doing that bring about another miracle and return my miraculous power to me? Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. So, am I to travel down a river in Kinzo's homeland in search of a key? As you travel down the river, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. There may be villages if you go down a river, but what is this shore the two will tell you of? The one who attains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. So those who do not have the key need not read the rest. I do not understand it, but that's how this riddle is. It's practically unsolvable, so solving it would be a miracle. That makes much sense. I felt a stabbing pain in my body. The anti-magic toxin had burned my skin. Some human is probably approaching. I erased my form. Multiple sets of footsteps approached. It was Genji, Shannon, and Canon too. It seems everyone is engrossed with solving the epitaph's riddle. Yes, I hear that even some of the servants have copied it down and taken it home with them. If you solve this riddle, will you really find 10 tons of gold? Indeed. There could be no doubt of that. I don't understand. The puzzle may be a tough one. Why is the master showing the location of his precious gold in a place where everyone can see? That is the master's magic, and also a bet. The master believes that the one who solves this difficult riddle will contain Beatrice-sama's soul within them. That's a strange bet. Magic? Looks like he's taken his occult fanaticism as far as it could possibly go. Shh! You shouldn't say that. All are allowed to try and solve the epitaph's riddle. Of course, the servants are no exceptions. Will you try to solve it? No. I could never solve such a hard riddle. And anyway. And? Even if I had 10 tons of gold, I can't think of anything in particular I'd want to use it for. I'd be much more happy if these peaceful days continued forever. Looks like you and George-sama have been pretty close these days. I just hope being distracted doesn't make you even more of a klutz. That won't happen. With a backward glance at this conversation, Genji walked up to the portrait and looked up at the witch. When they saw what Genji was doing, Shannon and Kaden immediately went silent. Genji, who was the head of the servants, the closest in age to Kinzo, and the one whom Kinzo called a friend, probably understood Kinzo's heart better than anyone else. What did he think when he looked at this portrait? Neither Shannon nor Kanon could tell. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. Suddenly, Genji started reciting the epitaph. Shannon quickly nodded to show she was listening, but it wasn't clear whether he was talking to her at all. Genji, his back still turned to them, continued. The master would not describe Odawara as his beloved hometown. I've heard that he lived far away, though we don't know where it was. Taiwan. Genji turned around and spoke that single word. Oh. Is that so? I see. So that explains why Kraus-sama always used to say, remember him talking about how Master liked areca nuts. Come to think of it, Kraus-sama said those were a luxury item, like tobacco, that was popular in Taiwan. So that's why the Master. In the half-century before the war, Taiwan was under the rule of Japan. Many Japanese had moved there, seeking a new frontier. Kinzo's family was a branch family, the Ushimiyas. Apparently, they were only distantly related to the head family, so they were able to form a new life and a new future, without being constrained by the head family in Odawara. Shannon and Kanon nodded, their understanding, but they didn't know why Genji had suddenly broached the subject. So, there was a river with sweetfish in it, in the master's hometown in Taiwan. And the key is there. Don't be so stupid. There has to be several rivers with sweetfish in the area. We don't know that for sure, right? I don't know where the master lived in Taiwan, but there might be only one river there. If so, that must be the place. You're too optimistic. There's no way the riddle could be solved that easily. The master says this magical ceremony will gain more power if more people try to solve the riddle. You must try as well. Everyone has been given the same chance. Yes. As if we had a chance. This is pointless. Genji spun around. Shannon and Kanon hurried to follow after him. When his footsteps receded and silence returned, a gold butterfly flitted out among the shadows. Taiwan, is it? Oh, so he lived quite far away. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. In other words, a Sweetfish River running through Taiwan. There are many rivers in Taiwan. Kanon was right. How ridiculous. However, the word Taiwan interests me. That taciturn Genji muttered it without anyone asking, so is it even possible it means nothing? Clearly, Genji saying it had something to do with the epitaph's riddle. It's almost as though it was a hint for solving it. Though I do find it stupid. Very well, Genji. Why don't I play along with your farce for a while? Taiwan. I have traveled the world at times during these past 1,000 years, but I know nothing of the place. To counter my ignorance, I shall need a crystallization of knowledge. That which is smoothed out and pressed into many sheets, what is called a book. Where might I find a book about Taiwan? Kinzo's study is the first place that comes to mind if one is looking for books. But that won't work. The charm of that room prevents me from entering. So the library, is it? Kinzo's vast collection of books grows each year. The books that don't fit in his study are stored in a book storage room that we usually call the library. Of course, there are countless books just in this place. The library is everything from valuable books to apparently worthless books, all packed together like an antique shop. There was a golden glint in the keyhole of the library's door, and a gold butterfly flitted out. Stinky as ever, I see. Dust, mold. I see. So this is the stench of knowledge. Well now, how can I find a book on Taiwan amongst all this? The prospect is almost dizzying. However, I realized right away, if I want to quickly find out about Taiwanese rivers, I didn't want a book on Taiwan. An atlas. There must be one of those somewhere around here. Search, my butterfly minions. Find the book I seek in this dusty, noble graveyard of knowledge. A cloud of countless gold butterflies appeared at my feet. They swayed, blew like the wind, and coiled themselves around the library. Eventually, the cloud of butterflies selected a single book. It seems that this is the one. Well done. A World Atlas, Asia volume. Perfect. It was a grand, thick, illustrated encyclopedia of maps, several volumes long. There was even a thick section on Taiwan. This should be plenty useful. Taiwan. 394 kilometers north to south, 144 kilometers east to west. An area of roughly 36,000 square kilometers. Oh, that's pretty large. By area, that's about the same size as Kyushu in Japan. This led Bito to a very natural question. Just where on this massive island did Kinzo live? Genji mentioned Taiwan, but that's all. How careless I've been. Bito had vaguely assumed the riddle would be solved in a flash if she could just look at a map of Taiwan. However, Taiwan is no small place. Just which part of this large island did Kinzo call his beloved hometown? I kept looking through books in this dusty library, sometimes having to cough, and I was not happy with being stuck in a place like this. So the largest city is Taipei. It says here that Japanese people used to live in a spot called Taisho. So is that where Kinzo lived? No, it's too early to be sure of that without proof. I'll skip to the next part before I settle on anything more specific than just Taiwan itself. A Sweetfish River running through the hometown. What's this? There are 129 rivers in Taiwan. Ugh, 129 rivers, and how many of those have sweetfish swimming in them? Just thinking about it is dizzying. This was quickly becoming ridiculous. Genji must have been muttering nonsense to himself after all. I only thought he was giving out a hint about the epitaph. So the reward for the fool blinded by gold is dust. Huh, nice one, Genji. I tossed the book aside, used magic to turn a bookshelf into a sofa, and plopped down on top of it. For a while I grumbled about getting tricked and looked up at the ceiling. I was annoyed, so I felt like gathering all this room's dust, packing it into a ball and tossing it into Genji's teacup. So I glanced down at the floor. The book I had thrown away lay open on the ground. A gold butterfly was resting on that open page. Tossing a book at random and reading oracle from the page it happens to be open to is a kind of ritual. I see. So that page must have some sort of hint. Not entirely convinced, I picked the book up. The open page was probably near the one I had been reading. Apparently it was a page explaining Taiwan's geography. Oddly enough, it was a page about rivers and lakes. I already know that there are 129 rivers. Is there something else you're trying to tell me? There were 6 major rivers listed. Zushui River, Kaoping River, Danshui River, Dajia River, Zhengwen River, Daju River. Oh, now then, which of these rivers might have sweetfish in them? An idea came to me then. Sweetfish are freshwater fish, and you don't find ocean water in rivers. Unless it's extremely dirty or blocked by a dam, any river might have sweetfish in it. Oh, foolish. All rivers have fresh water in them. What's stopping sweetfish from living in any river? Come to think of it, what a foolish name this Danshui River has. Freshwater river? What sort of river isn't a freshwater river? It would only make sense to name a river after what's in it if it were literally anything else. Danshui River flows from Taipei to the harbor town of Danshui. I see. It isn't called that because of the water in it, but because of the town at its mouth. As you travel down the river, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. I realize that this is stupid, and yet there's something about this town. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. That line should be talking about one of the 129 rivers. Sweetfish are freshwater fish. And here's this freshwater river flowing down to a town called Freshwater. It's like a strange, trivial word game. Or it could be some kind of code. I've been looking for books here so long the dust is piling on me. If I give up now, it would all be a waste of time. Very well. Why don't I test my luck and see if the random page the book opened to contains an oracle? I turned to the next page, trying to search in even greater detail. To me, solving this riddle was like a game. One that all the servants were engrossed in. I was just trying to be one of that group. For quite some time, I'd suffered from a lack of books I could find particularly absorbing, and I was very bored, so took that book back with me to my own room and looked through it every night. There's a hint for the epitaph's riddle in an atlas. In the third game, Ava solved the riddle after reading a book in the book archive. Then in the fifth game, Fruto Erga looked for an atlas in that room before solving the riddle herself. Then there really is some secret in a map of Taiwan. I believe the Sweetfish River part was a code for Danshui River. Every day I researched the surrounding geography in detail. Of course, I also looked up several small streams that might have sweetfish in them. However, that didn't get me anywhere. According to some information from a previous game, we aren't looking for an actual river. But it is something that flows. That's how Ava interpreted it. So this isn't a river. Correct. In the end, Danshui River had nothing to do with it. However, now that I think about it, it must have been an oracle after all. The river itself was unrelated, but it was still a great hint. The river was unrelated, but it was still a hint. Calm down and think. Think of something that flows but isn't a river. So something other than water that flows. What can you think of? Try and think outside the box. Well, I'm tired of all this puzzle solving. Stop being annoying and give us the answer. You solved the epitaph, right? Probably. Something other than water that flows. Something. Something. Methods of transportation? Like a road or a highway? Correct. It took me long to realize that the Sweetfish River did not refer to water itself. That's right. There's something other than a river with the name Danshui. Something that both people and things flow up and down. Up and down? You mean... That's it. Railroads. The Danshui Line. It's a railway that goes from Taipei to Danshui Harbor. It was constructed in 1901 when Taiwan was under Japanese rule. Afterwards, the number of stations continued to grow and it became a major artery into Taipei. This railroad was used after the war as well, and is still in common use as the Danshui Line of the Taipei Rapid Transit System. Its route begins at Taipei Station and continues on until the town of Danshui. Danshui Station. You thought it was gonna be an elevator? Wordplay. Japanese, Chinese, wordplay. What did the epitaph say you'd see if you went down the river? A village. There's only one station on the Danshui Line with the village character in its name, and it's this station. This station? How do you read this? The Japanese pronounce it as Kirigan. Its name was changed to Sekihai Station after the war. When Kinzo lived there, it was Kirigan Station. As you travel down the river, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. Village isn't the only one. You can also see this symbol, the character for shore. In the end, it took quite a long time to work out this station was the one referred to. It has the character for village and the character for shore. It felt like a kid's riddle playing with letters. The first character in Kirigan has the mouth character in it. And the other half of the first character means the word that, right? That village is shore, and the mouth is telling of it. But I don't get what the 2 means. Oh, the Danshui line is shut down in present day. So someone you were watching was trying to solve the riddle and got extremely close but got roadblocked by that fact. That's actually hilarious. The 3 characters of Kirigan can be split into mouth, a that, a village, and a shore. Those are all words that appear in the epitaph. In that village, look for the shore the 2 will tell you of. You can read it as code for the name of the station. However, I don't understand the part about the 2. I was also stuck on that part. However, by then I was very confident this station was what the epitaph referred to. If the station was once known by a different name, then could some local spot also have its name changed? That's right. Kirigan Station was named after a nearby location, after all. And though the name of that area was also Kirigan, it's written differently. Whoa! I totally get it! Ah, there are 2 mouths. It didn't take much investigation before it was clear. The epitaph must have been referring to this place called Kirigan. Then, is this where the key to the Golden Land rests? That would be the obvious answer. However, I couldn't make the long trip to Taiwan to check. And of course, the place known as Kirigan is quite large itself. If a tiny key was hidden somewhere there, I'd never find it. I was at a loss. But you didn't give up. I was certain I had found the answer, at least to the first 5 lines of the epitaph. In my eyes, it truly was an entertaining game. No, a mystery. I almost gave up then. However, there was no doubt I had the key in my hand. So I decided to travel to the Golden Land in accordance with the epitaph. Yeah, the amount of effort they had to translate this in a way that remotely made sense. You can see why they didn't really, like, try to localize it directly, because it was just, like, easiest to just directly translate it and then kind of give some footnotes to try to make it make sense. There was no way that riddle would be able to be correctly localized in a way that would still work as a riddle for us. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. We can tell by this line the key refers to 6 things. Reasoning makes it possible to see this couldn't refer to a physical key. 6 things. Yes, 6 things. I was merely a thick-headed human. I decided to look through books for anything related to the number 6. 6. 6, 6, 6. The location of the key called Kirigan was hidden by a word game. That meant the 6 things were surely connected to some sort of word game too. 6. 6, 6, 6. I kept searching for 6. Is there some way to split up the characters in Kirigan to get 6? A good idea. Still, no matter how much you stare at those 3 characters, you won't get an answer. The problem here is that Kirigan is just the Japanese reading of the name. Then how did they pronounce it there? Whoa! It's pronounced Chilian. When written in Roman characters, that's 6 letters long. 6 letters? Then it is a word game after all. This is what it means by the 6 chosen by the key. I get it. Talking about it like this, it sounds like a line of reasoning that can be reached in a second. Right, guys? Doesn't this all sound like it can be reached in a second? It's so obvious. I can't believe we didn't get this on day 1 of the stream, right? Come on. However, it took a long time before I reached this spot on my own. A dizzying number of nights passed from the time Genji uttered that single word to the time I got this far. So what does it mean to offer these 6 letters as sacrifices? On the second twilight, we start hearing about those who remain. Reasoning opens up the possibility the 6 letters of the key are being removed from an even larger set of letters. However, what could the 6 letters be removed from? That puzzle worried me for a long time. It's like the start of an entirely new riddle. This time I would have to solve it by myself without any assistance. Yeah guys, come on, everything can be solved by the 4th game. I can't believe we didn't get this by then. Like, they say that everything can be solved by the 4th game, which is technically true, but there's still so much, like, backstory that you don't get until, like, these episodes. that even if you kind of figured it out, you still wouldn't know like a significant chunk of the story for sure. Like all the background with Kinzo and Beatrice Castiglione, the whole entire like they alluded to the Shannon and Badler thing in episode 1, but we didn't see the actual like exchange about it because it was mentioned in passing. But yeah, I mean, you got it. Give credit while credit's due. Technically, everything's solvable by the 4th game. In a previous game, I'm pretty sure Aunt Rosa formed some sort of theory about the first Twilight. Right, that theory about a 10-day journey ending at the 10th Twilight. On the 10th Twilight at Journey's End, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. She took that section to be a literal trip that ends when you attain to, or reach the treasures of the Golden Land. You can see Kinzo spending weeks not showering and sleeping, just spread out, making a conspiracy board to write all this. Could you imagine how much effort Ryukishi took to write this for the novel? Not only for the riddle, but to make it sound like a murder mystery-like device in, like, akin to And Then There Were None. Like, for both of those things to work together? What meaning was there in those words? Realizing that there was something to be found, and then realizing what that something actually was, took another long stretch of time. By Rosa's reasoning, attain to meant reaching some physical location, represented by the 4 treasures. It was a good try, but not quite right. It's not the treasures we're supposed to reach, but their power. What does it even mean to reach the power of something like that? Don't overthink it. What else can the word power mean? You reach, or rather raise yourself to the power of the 4 treasures, starting at Twilight number 10. Obviously, right? And then this is done once and for the last time. Oh, so it's an exponent, like a math problem. So you need to be good at math and geography and history and reading Japanese for this. Here, I had a home field advantage since I lived on Rokkenjima. There was a hint that made it easier to think of a certain large number. In fact, you might say I actually found the number before I knew what the question was. If you keep making it so complicated, Leon's gonna get a headache. Let's get back to the point. 10 to the 4th power is 10,000. You've reached 10,000 on the 10th Twilight. How far have you gotten by the 1st Twilight? Well, that's just 1/10 of 10,000. 1,000, right? Right. But while that gives us a single word, it has nowhere near enough letters. It doesn't match the key at all. However, the end of the line says you will attain to the power once and for the last time. If we interpret this as raising 10 to the 4th power once, then doing the same thing one final time, we end up with 10 quadrillion. That's 10 quadrillion at the 10th Twilight, or quadrillion at the 1st Twilight. As Badler guessed in the 5th game, it has 11 letters. Or should I say, as you guessed. Strangely enough, both words begin with Q. I felt that this just had to be right. Leon took a notepad from a pocket and spelled out quadrillion and Chilean. The 2 words looked even similar at a glance. That's right. It's true the 6 letters chosen by the key are right there inside quadrillion. So what happens if we take them out? We're left with 5 meaningless letters. However, the important thing is the number 5. After all, in the next part of the epitaph, the word kill appears 5 times. And then on the 9th Twilight, none shall be left alive. In other words, there should be 5 letters left. On top of that, just as Badler-san guessed in the 5th game, 2 of these letters are close to each other. The D and the R. Those must be the 2 who are close. Once you reach this spot, the riddle has been practically solved. Clearly, right guys? Clearly, the obvious answer staring us in the face, right? Or put another way, this is as far as you can go with the epitaph alone. You might be able to figure out the answer with a little more wordplay, but you won't be able to activate the device. That's right. Once you know this much, all that remains is to gouge and kill. You had a good idea of where the place was, even before you got this far, right? Yes. Some people suspected the gold was hidden there even before the epitaph appeared. And because of the mysterious phrase that appeared there, it's only natural I thought the place concealed some secret. What do you mean by the place? The place with the device that opens the door to the Golden Land. A quick-witted person should be able to figure out where the first twilight is by now. Huh? I thought the first twilight was quadrillion, not a place. It's the place where quadrillion is written. You should know it. Or did you blindly follow Kinzo's orders and never go near it? Chapter 9, The Day the Witch Revived. Quadrillion. There's only one place you'll find that word on Rokonjima. Gold butterflies flitted from shadow to shadow, dodging raindrops. Unless my memory's mistaken, this is probably the place. It was the chapel. That mysterious building, one of the oldest on Rokonjima, which had been built at the same time as the mansion. It was called the chapel, but not once had Kinzo used it for worship, and the members of the family had never been allowed inside. There were strict orders that none approach it without reason, and its purpose has always been a mystery. However, all these mysteries got boring after several decades. At some point, everyone forgot the chapel even existed, and that splendid building passed the thoughts of Rokonjima's residents. Of course, this had been true for Bitu as well. Bitu, who hated boredom, had no desire to approach places that humans never went. Her last memory was of the time she went in there to taunt Shannon as she tried to clean. There can be no doubt. This is it. Quadrillion. Bitu looked up above the door of the chapel. There was a relief displayed over an arch. English words were written there. You will be blessed only at a probability of a quadrillion to 1. Huh. So you thought that was the probability of someone solving this riddle. This chapel was built long ago. If there's a device like the one I imagine, Kinzo must have prepared that epitaph riddle many decades ago. He must have been planning to use it as a ceremony for choosing a fitting successor all that time. However, that ceremony is now a ceremony to open the door to the Golden Land and to my resurrection. When I snapped my fingers, the ground bulged, and several snake-like dead trees sprouted up. They twisted around each other to form a ladder, which leaned itself against the door. If my guess is right, there's some sort of device in that relief. I slowly climbed the ladder. Because of the size of the door, the relief was very high up. This close up, it looks much bigger than it did from the ground. Come to think of it, whenever we cleaned the chapel, this relief was the only thing Genji always made sure he polished himself. I always wondered why he didn't leave something so trivial to the younger servants. I thought it strange, but nothing more. The master treasured this relief, so the head servant cared for it himself. I always accepted that excuse. But now I understand. There must be something in this relief. As Genji polished it himself to make sure no one else accidentally found out. So, am I to sacrifice the 6 letters chosen by the key from Quadrillion? The tips of my fingers touched the cue. My fingertips were soon covered with dust. However, I quickly realized there was something strange about it. Don't tell me this letter. No, it had to be like this. There would be no other way to offer up sacrifices. Vito grabbed the letter Q, and after lightly playing around with it in various ways, she pulled it out with a slight clunk. Just as I thought. Here's the Q I pulled out. And this part's a wedge. No, it's a key. A key was attached to the back of the Q and had been stuck into a keyhole in the relief. I see. In that case, I know what to do next. Very good. This Q key is a wrong answer. Enough with you. Ito carelessly tossed the Q aside. This was the first sacrifice. She kept on pulling out the keys for the 6 letters representing the key. So A will also be sacrificed, and both I's, and then the N at the end. Now I only sacrificed one... Oh, yeah, L, but unfortunately there are two L's here. There were two L's. I didn't know which I should sacrifice. I tried pulling both out, but the keys were of different shapes. So one is a right answer, and one is a wrong answer. Well, there are only two. If I make a mistake, I can just try the other one. Unless messing up sets off a trap that blows up the island, of course. Thinking it a waste of time to sit here worrying, I decided on the rightmost L and pulled it out. 5 letters remained in the word. And now the first twilight is over. On to the second twilight. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. The D and the R are close. What does it mean to tear them apart? Do I pull them out? But if I do, there will only be 3 letters left. By this point, I was able to make a good guess at what the gouge and kill lines meant. Gouge and kill probably means to turn the keys and take them out. In that case, the parts about going from head to leg must mean starting at the left and going right. If that's the case, there must be 5 letters left on the board. In other words, tear apart doesn't mean kill. If so, we can read tear apart to mean putting a gap between the D and the R. But how? Once again, there are 2 ways to do it. Do I remove the D and move it to the left? Do I remove the R and move it to the right? After pondering this for some time, I realized that both choices were wrong. No, that's not right. I've had it wrong ever since I removed that L. A short while ago, I removed the right of the 2 L's. However, if I had removed the left one, it would look like this. If you line it up this way, it's easy to see the next step. The R gets shifted to the right. This way, all the letters are spread out evenly. This must be it. And this next part is another tough one. Praise my name. It's already clear this is a word game. Those who remain shall praise my noble name. Just what are the remaining 5 letters supposed to do? Probably change their order to form a word. U, D, R, L, O. What should be done about these 5 letters? Praise my name. How can I get stuck after coming so far? How are these 5 letters supposed to praise a name? That man's name is Ushimiya Kinzo. Is the U part of Ushimiya? No, several letters don't match, and there aren't nearly enough letters to make Ushimiya. One thing is certain, my name must refer to Kinzo. Then does the U stand for Ushimiya after all? Like an initial. Then what do the D, R, L, and O stand for? They can't mean Kinzo. Do the R and O stand for Rokonjima? The master of Rokonjima, Kinzo. Not nearly enough letters. This riddle left me totally confused. However, there were only 5 letters left. There can't be too many possible combinations of those letters. I can use process of elimination. Thinking I'd play around with it, I pulled out the U. There were 4 letters left. D, R, L, O. My idea the U stood for Ushimiya was like a heavenly oracle. When I removed the U, I thought of making a word with the remaining 4 letters. D, R, L, and O. Those 4 letters spun around in my head, changing their orders, and lashed upon a single English word that would serve to praise Kinzo. It's Lord. Lord? I had absolutely no basis for it. However, it was like a flash of inspiration. I quickly changed the letters around before that flash faded from my mind. L-O-R-D. Lord. Lord U. Ushimiya. Lord Ushimiya. On the 4th twilight, gouged the head. It was a key, so it wouldn't have turned if it was the wrong one. But it did turn. I managed to gouge it. I gouged the first letter, the L, with a click and pulled it out. Next, the 5th twilight. Gouge the key, or gouge the chest and kill. The O was gouged and pulled out easily. Then the R. Next, the D. And finally, the U. When I turned the key of the U, I could feel resistance, as though some device had been activated. I waited for something to change, but nothing did. However, I felt something happen. A secret door must have opened up somewhere around here. Waiting around won't accomplish anything. I've probably done everything I can here. All the letters in quadrillion have been removed. Imagine explaining all this to the architect who built it. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive, and none shall be left alive. So this way has the witch have I revived. The 10th twilight. At journey's end you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures once and for the last time. When I stepped down off the ladder and looked around, I immediately noticed a small change. That lion statue. At some point, the lion statue in front of the chapel had turned to face a different direction. How did that work? Did Kinzo plan this extravagant device back when he first started building on this island? I walked up to the lion statue and stared at it. Oh, thanks for calling Kirby. Yeah, Kirby, the Golden Land's closed. Come on, let's go together. Other than the fact it was pointing a different direction, nothing had changed. In that case, is the lion looking at something in particular now? I followed its line of sight and saw another lion statue. In that lion statue also changed its direction. Interesting. So follow the lion guideposts. As intricate as ever, I see, Kinzo. I wasn't complaining anymore. I felt a bit of respect and awe at Kinzo for setting up such an intricate device and having it go undiscovered for all these years. There were lion statues standing like guardian deities at the entrance and the corners of the chapel. The direction they faced had changed, pointing around to the back of the chapel. There was something there. Huh. It was no longer a surprise. This was after the contraption with the letters. After being guided by the lions. So when a gaping open secret passageway appeared, with stairs leading down to the darkness below, it wasn't surprising to me anymore. So, is this the entrance to the Golden Land, Kinzo? Did you find it? Grandfather's gold? Yes. It took ages and ages, but I had reached the Golden Land. According to the previous games, there was an underground VIP room there, along with 10 tons of gold, right? Yes. After going down a rough stairway, there was a door at the end of a passage. Inside, it was beautifully furnished, a true VIP room. And was the gold all you found there? Yes, at the time. It would be a lie to say I was not dizzy by the sight of all that gold stacked high. Is this real? I lightly touched the pile of gold with my finger. It was hard and cold. I must have imagined it would crumble like sandcastle if I touched it. Now there could be no doubt. This certainly was a 10-ton pile of gold ingots. Huh. Considering the amount of gold I just found, I figured I ought to be crying out in delight. I didn't really feel like laughing, but I thought it only good manners to do so in a situation like this, so I forced it out. Because of this, only a few feeble laughs slipped from my mouth. At that moment, even stronger than any delight was a feeling as though I'd entered a place I wasn't supposed to be. I couldn't think of what I should do next now the epitaph's riddle had been completed. Then I heard approaching footsteps. It was coming from the stairway I'd entered by. Someone was coming. Could it be Kinzo? If he finds out I've been in a place like this, will I get scolded harshly? I thought about hiding and forgetting this ever happened, but my legs wouldn't move. I kept standing there stunned in front of the pile of gold. As the footsteps drew closer and closer. The door opened and I saw who it was. It wasn't Kinzo. You. Did you reach this place by your power alone? Indeed. For some time, Genji stared at B2 in silence, as though he was calculating something. Then he slowly clapped his hands together. He did it again, over and over. It took quite a long time before I realized he was applauding me. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Ash. Have a good rest. Thank you so much for stopping by the stream. I'll catch you next time. The master has said that he will hand over the gold and the headship to the first person who solves the epitaph. And he believed this person would be Beatrice. Beatrice. Me. This is fate. It is fate that brought you to this day. I didn't really understand what Genji was saying. Surely the shock of seeing the gold still had me paralyzed. Come this way. Okay. Genji opened a closet. Inside it was a torso wearing a beautiful dress made of black cloth and golden stitching. When I saw it, I understood immediately. It was the witch's dress. The black dress worn by the Beatrice in the portrait. Change into this. It is something you once wore. I've never worn a dress like this. However, I understood what Genji meant. This dress was the one that Beatrice once wore. And the one who displays a miracle by solving the epitaph is Beatrice. By reaching this room, I succeeded the position of the real Beatrice, the one in the portrait. Why do I call myself Beatrice? Because the name of the Golden Witch who rules over Rokenjima's night is Beatrice. That's right. I wasn't the real Beatrice. I was a different witch, stealing the name of the witch from Kinzo's delusions. And now I've succeeded the real Beatrice. By solving the epitaph's riddle, my resurrection will be complete. I was the one who decided on that rule. However, this really was a ceremony to resurrect Beatrice. In the past, I believed I could create my own fates with my magic. How ironic that the one who could control magic at will would be guided by fate to this place. At that moment, I had no choice but to truly accept and believe in this word called fate. And after I put this on, you will go to the master. Ready yourself. Oh, thank you for the stretch, Lork. Good call. Don't forget, you guys make sure to stretch too. Wait here. Okay. Master, it is Genji. After Genji knocked, the sound of the study's door unlocking could be heard. After a single glance telling me to wait, Genji entered alone. I cannot believe that this day has come. Fate can be such a strange thing. Kumasawa was with us too. I thought this dress, which didn't really suit me, would lead to a lot of jokes, but she didn't laugh at me at all. On the contrary, when she saw me, her expression had turned stern, as though a long-awaited day had finally come. My heart raced. Supposedly anyone should have been able to solve the epitaph. There shouldn't be anything strange about me solving it. Genji and the others kept wearing serious expressions, and that along with everything else made this feel like some sort of grand ceremony. The suffocating silence continued. Eventually the door opened and Genji peeked out. Enter, Beatrice-sama. He was saying those words to me, but not to the person I'd been until a short while ago. Go ahead, Beatrice-sama. Kumasawa also urged me forward with a respectful bow. Kinzo was probably waiting for me inside. What expression should I wear as I go in? How should I greet him? I don't have a clue. As the two of them motioned me forward, it was all I could do to avoid tripping over my dress as I walked. Kinzo-san, she is here. Kinzo was crouched on the ground as though kneeling before the portrait of Beatrice. At Nanjo's words, he slowly turned, still crouching. Oh. Kinzo's eyes were already red with crying. When he saw me, he groaned with wonder. Beatrice. Beatrice. Had he even forgotten how to stand up? He crawled over to where I was, while calling out to me with the name of the woman he had loved long ago. I too was stunned to move. Kinzo grabbed the hem of my dress, gripped it tightly, then curled up and sobbed. Beatrice, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew how you felt, and yet I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please, please forgive me. Words weren't directed at me. However, just standing here like this was all I needed to do. Kinzo's moment of atonement, the moment he spent half his life searching for, had finally come. A human's life is stained with sin, so humans seek forgiveness while they still live. However, in most cases, the person capable of granting such forgiveness is no longer on this earth. It was like that for Kinzo too. The one he sought no longer existed in this world. Instead, that forgiveness had been woven together by a miracle, and now Kinzo had received it. Oh, Beatrice. Beatrice. You need not forgive me. You need not say anything. I simply needed to apologize to you just once. Oh. Kinzo kept grasping the dress's hem and sobbing. The sins of humans are not forgiven from without. Forgiveness is found through regret and repentance. I want to believe that some sin, some fault of his has been forgiven thanks to the way I look. Kinzo's sobbing gradually ceased, and he slowly looked up at me and rose. He looked unsteady. Nanjo rushed forward to support him. So, I see that you are alive. I'm glad. This time, these words weren't directed through me, but at me. I hesitated, unsure how I should respond. I beg your forgiveness for keeping this a secret from you all this time. No matter. I do not fault you, Genji. Considering the sin I committed, every day until now has been necessary for my atonement. However, there can be no doubt today's miracle is a true one. By her own power, without anyone's help, she solved the epitaph before anyone else. I certainly didn't give her a clue or anything like that. Well done, solving such a difficult epitaph. Thanks. Indeed, your voice resembles your mother's. Even your face reminds me of that mother and daughter. There can be no doubt that Beatrice's blood flows through your veins. Yes, the traces of the Lady of Kuodorian in her youth are right there. Does my face look like someone else's? Beatrice-sama, please forgive me for keeping this a secret even from you. Your parents are Beatrice-sama and the Master. What? It's true. Until now, you've been raised as a child without parents. However, your true father is the Master. Your true mother is Beatrice-sama. Is that really? Yes. You truly are a descendant of Beatrice-sama. Is such a strange fate really possible? I've dreamed about it. Dreamed about what it'd be like to be the Golden Witch Beatrice. But that dream had been mine alone. I dreamed if I solved the epitaph and carried out its ceremony, I would revive as the true Beatrice. So is it okay to believe that since I solved it, Beatrice really has revived? I truly carry Beatrice's blood. Yes, there's no doubt of that whatsoever. It must have been hard for you to live until this day without knowing a parent's affection. And yet look at how wonderfully you've grown. So you all knew about me. Genji, Kumasawa, and even Nanjo nodded wordlessly. Now that I think about it, there might have been lots of hints. I've always felt as though there was something special about me. Genji, and especially Kumasawa, always treated me very kindly. Then does that mean this day is a promised day, which would eventually have come no matter what? I don't understand anything anymore. It's all a miracle from God. A promised fate has led me to this day. Beatrice. No. Leon. That is the name I wanted to give you. It is your true name. Leon. I will now return to you everything that Beatrice gave me. I return to you the gold, as well as everything of the Ushimiya family which was created by it. Kinzo stuck out a hand that looked like a rotting tree. On his finger was a ring with the one-winged eagle crest, the symbol of the Ushimiya family head. He pulled it off, grasped it tightly, and held it out to me. I didn't know what to do. Slowly, as though they were being drawn forward, I held out my hands, palms up. After pressing his fists against my cupped hands, Kinzo slowly opened his hands and let the ring drop. Leon, my child. All the ways your fate has been toyed with until today were caused by my sins. Please forgive me. You will now inherit my ring. You are the new Ushimiya family head. All of that gold belongs to you. I ask you use it as you please, and hope it will be enough to heal some small part of the pain you have suffered. That trifling amount of gold may be nothing in comparison with the sin I committed. But even so, it should be enough to bring you some comfort. Thank you. Leon, I have one final request. What is that? Could you call me? Sorry, what did you say? Could you call me father? I understand why you're not able to. I have not been a father to you in any way. Furthermore, you've been raised without knowing anything about a father. I realize it's not a name you can call me by, and I realize I have no right to ask this of you. But even with that in mind, please, if I could just hear that, I would have no further regrets. After being asked like that, could I possibly have refused? Even if I have been his child, I truly cannot acknowledge him as my father. So it felt very strange to say it. And yet I decided that saying it was the right thing to do. Only God can truly forgive sins. But though it may be temporary, people can be saved by the forgiveness of others. Yes. Father. That awkward word made Kinzo laugh. Drops of silver fell from both his eyes. At that moment, the shadow that had covered his face was wiped away. Thank you, Leon, my child. And Beatrice as well. Thank you for this last chance to ask for forgiveness. Of course, I don't believe I've been forgiven by this alone. I shall atone for the rest as I burn in the fires of hell. I, Ushima Kinzo, have no more regrets in this life. None at all. No regrets or matters left unfinished. Looking up to the heavens, Kinzo spread his arms as though facing an applauding audience, laughing at the top of his lungs. It was the final pleasure, known only by those who had been released from all regrets of this world. Kinzo's laugh weakened, and when it disappeared, he dropped to his knees, like a puppet with its strings cut, and slowly fell to the ground. Master! Dr. Nanjo. Yes. Though their master had fallen, they walked up to him slowly. They already knew. Kinzo's soul had already burned itself out. After checking Kinzo's pulse, Nanjo shook his head and stood back up. It was a peaceful death. I don't think he had any regrets at all. It may be that the master died long before now. It was only his magic and tenacity that kept him here so long. And he finally had a chance to apologize to Beatrice-sama for everything and finished everything he had to do. Please rest in peace. I believe you have redeemed yourself. Father. That was the one-night reunion between me and my father. And also our final farewell. That music was the same one that played during the credits of episode 1. If it sounds familiar to you. This gold all belongs to you now. If you wish to exchange it for money, I can arrange for that. I hear it's worth 20 billion yen. From here on, any of your dreams in this world can be granted with money. Oh, it must be tough to think of what to do with this much money when it suddenly comes your way. There's nothing I desire among the things money can buy. So for the present, I would like to leave this here. Of course, I'm glad I have a lot of money. However, money can't heal the pain in my heart. I just want him to come back. As you wish. Then it shall be left here. Also, take this key. What is this? It is a key to the underground VIP room. If you use this, you won't need to use that entrance contraption. She was the only one who knew the answer to the epitaph's riddle, and the only key to this place was now hers. Yeah. Hey Genji, have you heard of cryptocurrency? At this point, she truly was the master of this golden VIP room. You are already the master of Rokenjima. You have the right to know all this island's secrets. We should talk about Kuadorian too. That's the mansion your mother lived in. I'm sure you've heard rumors about it. Kuadorian. There are 2 mansions on this island, one at either end. One is the mansion we know well. The other is a hidden mansion known as Kuadorian. Below this island are remains of a military base built during the war. The master used that to travel between 2 ends of the island. There is an underground path in the back of this room, and if you follow it, you will reach the basement of Kuadorian, on the other side of this island. That is a secret mansion which only the master knew of. Of course, that mansion also now belongs to the new head. It's the mansion your mother lived in. It will probably be worth taking a trip over there sometime. My mother. I've lived alone my whole life. The only person I've ever felt like calling mother is Kumasawa-san, who always helped me out. So there's a mansion where a mother I've never met nor seen lived. Who exactly am I? Ask any questions you wish. You will now deserve to know everything. Right now I'm feeling very confused. I don't even know where I should start asking questions. But I'm sure I'll think of plenty of things to ask about. When I do, please tell me. As you wish. Also, being treated so respectfully like that is a bit uncomfortable. I'd be happy if you could talk to me the same way you've always done. If that is what you wish, then I will do so. Genji, if I'm supposed to be running the family business now, can I ask what the family business is? Oh, that's easier for me too. Well, no. What will we do now, Genji-san? Kinzo-san is dead. I will tell Kraus-sama and Madam he has passed away. Then we must tell them that Leon-sama is the official successor to the headship. After all, from this point forth, you are the Ushimiya family head. Me as the head? That's... And isn't Kraus-sama the successor? The one who solves the epitaph's riddle is the successor. There exists a will specifying this much. The Master's final order was that you were to inherit everything. Please wait. I appreciate the sentiment, but I can't do the job of being the successor, and I can't accept such a big responsibility. I think it would be better for Kraus-sama to inherit that role. Are you certain? Today I've learned who I am. Everyone knows about their parents, but I didn't since the time of my birth. And here today I finally learned the truth. That alone is enough for me. If I suddenly became the Ushimiya family head, how would Kraus-sama react? How angry would Madam be? I don't want to become the head if it means making them feel like that. Today I learned who I am. Who gave birth to me, how and when. These are things I want to learn from them as time goes by. That alone is enough. I am Leon, and I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. Knowing that is enough for me. I don't plan on calling myself the head. Kraus-sama can take that job. Is that your order as the Ushimiya family head? Yes. As you wish, Master. Then I will make it so. And please don't tell anyone about what happened tonight. I want to stay me. There's nothing I'd want to do with the Ushimiya headship or the gold. I want to wait here on this island as I've done in the past. I want everything to be exactly the same as it was. That's my only wish. As you wish, Master. Everything that has happened tonight will not go beyond those present here. Kumasawa, Dr. Nanjo, that is the wish of the new head. If that's what you want, I have no objections. Kinzo-san's will entrusted everything to you. If that is what you want to do, none of us will complain. You say exactly the same as it was, but do you really mean exactly the same? With no differences at all? Yes. We'll keep this a secret. This place and the gold will be sealed away. If I need money, I'll ask you about it then. That's enough for me. As you wish. The device leading to this place and the key both belong to you. And all of us swear to keep the events of this night a secret. Kraus-sama will be the successor, but in my heart, you will be the only true successor. As you have ordered, we will behave the same we always have, but please order us whenever it suits you. You are my only master. Thank you very much. The vast mountain of gold and the ring of the Ushimiya family head. The dress of the portrait Beatrice. And I became the true Beatrice, the Golden Witch. Right here in my very own Golden Land. If I think about it, not much has actually changed. After all, I've always been the Golden Witch. I've just had a few more people acknowledge that. November 29th, the day I became a true witch. Oh, I am one yet many. I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. The true ruler of Rokenjima and the possessor of endless gold. And yet I am in no way complete. I await the return of the one person I love. Everything's going so happily. There's no way anything can go wrong, right? Hey Narek! Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. You guys, please go check out Narek when you get a chance. He's a very cool VTuber as well. He plays a lot of different games, and he also has a really handsome model, so please go make sure to check him out. Thank you for entrusting me with your audience. Hope you had a good stream. What were you playing today? Yeah, thank you again, Narek. Please, please, please go check out Narek. Thank you for coming by. And I'm Kiro, the frog-themed martial artist. We're reading Umineko When They Cry. It is a mystery novel, visual novel. And we are getting close to the end of Chapter 7, or Episode 7. You played Have a Nice Death. Oh, that sounds fun. I think I heard one of my friends play it, and they said they enjoyed it. Stream's going well. It's nice to be streaming again. We're getting to a very... Well, we just went through a very emotional part of the story, and there's still a little bit left to go for today. So I hope you guys are able to sit back and relax for a little bit. And thank you, thank you. That is the end of my tale. Oh, is that all? But aren't the next 2 years pretty fun? We don't need them. After all we've heard in the past games about your inner conflict and how you suffered, you don't need to say any more. You mean the conflict of the furniture with incomplete souls? There was a duel. The result had almost been decided. However, the year 1986 was incredibly merciless. I'll bet you curse your fate. Yes. If it had been 1 year sooner, or else 1 year later. The duel would have been settled, though the way it got settled would have been different. Silently, Claire hung her head. If only I'd been given time, or else I wouldn't have been given time to worry. I hate everything. Why did it have to be 1986? I decided to abandon control over everything. At Abandon control? Like the ceremony in which I inherited everything from the previous head, I decided to abandon myself to the fate known as a miracle. It may be more accurate to say I abandoned myself to the choice of the roulette. We could not even decide our own fate, so we let fate decide everything for us. Perhaps one of us will find what they seek, or perhaps all will be joined and released, or perhaps someone will put a stop to this folly. No matter which fate the roulette chose, I plan to obey its ruling. I will not resist fate. After all, whenever I have tried in the past, fate has always been heartless to me. Claire hung her head and let a single tear drop down. Humans will carelessly say that people possess infinite possibilities. However, the Endless Witch knows how limited those possibilities really are. So out of her limited fate, she tried to create the infinite. By entrusting her fate to God, she tried to create the infinite. However, this did not mean she was resigned to her fate. She spun the roulette of fate with an unshakable and certain will. A certain fate where absolutely no one could escape if the epitaph was not solved. She sealed off the island with it, herself included. October 4th and 5th, 1986 were sealed away by an absolute and certain will, and she abandoned herself to that short span of time and the one fate out of many that would be chosen on that island. And now my confession is over. Isn't that enough to place my motive for the crime? If you still do not know, I will say no more. It's not as though anyone could understand my heart anyway. Yeah, there's no need to say any more. Leon, after watching how I've wandered through a dead end of fate, do you see how great a hope you are to me? I'm a different possible you. The happiness you live makes me jealous, but even more overwhelmed with happiness. The future you represent was a possible one. Right now, that fact alone is my salvation. Please, live with enough happiness for the both of us. I'm glad I got to meet you once at the end. You have my thanks, Lady Berncastel. I'm just carrying out your funeral. There's no need to thank me. Well, it's about time to end this. It's about time to send the dead to the land of the dead. Yes, this is my funeral after all. It's time for me to go back to where I belong. Yeah, don't thank Bern just yet. We know how kind Bern is, right? Don't make that face. And please rejoice that you were not me. After all, I rejoice in that fact as well. I'll live life for the both of us. Thank you. Live in happiness, and someday find yourself a wonderful person. I pray you live as a human, without awakening as a witch. That you have a whole and single soul, and love one person with all your strength. I hope you live that sort of life. I will. Will-san, I thank you for being an observer. You aren't the one I truly wanted to understand me, but you have saved my heart. I understand you. I don't neglect the heart. Thank you. So now that I have a splendid observer who understands me, I want to entrust my final moments to you. Are you sure you're okay with it being me? Yes. For me, the important thing is whether the person understands me, not how well I know them. The one I wanted to understand didn't. A person I don't know did understand. There's nothing sad about it. On the contrary, I'm grateful for this miracle. A person was able to understand even though he has no relation to me. You are a good observer, and the only one who has managed to understand me. That connection is strong enough. Understood. I offer my heart to you, nameless and wonderful observer. Leon, stand back. Huh? What's going to happen? In the mystery genre, there could be no death unless the detective performs the last rites. Will just stopping your heart be enough? When you mourn the dearly departed, do you just put their heart into the coffin? Got it. That which was born from earth will return to earth. I'll return all of you to the earth. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, illusions to illusions, and dreams to dreams. Right. Then let us begin. This is my burial. Whenever you're ready. Let us start. This is almost like the end of my last game. Light gathered at Will's back, and a sword materialized there. Slowly he drew it out. Its pitch-black tip, which could neatly slice apart truth from fiction, swung once leaving a black trail, and then again leaving a white trail. I'll cut the truth out from fiction. Come. Following Will's lead, a similar sword appeared in Claire's hand. Its tip glinted silver, the opposite of Will's. First game, first twilight. 6 corpses in the gardening shed. Illusions to illusions. The corpse that cannot return to Earth returns to illusions. Will's pitch-black slash cut across Claire's body at an angle. The blade passed through her like she was water, but its tip sent golden flower petals scattering. First game, second twilight. 2 corpses are close, in a closed room protected by a chain. Illusions to illusions. A chain of illusions can only trap illusions. The razor-thin black blur sent golden flower petals scattering again. First game, fourth twilight. The old head from the closed room study confined in a scorching furnace. Illusions to illusions. Let the man of illusions go to where he belongs. First game, fifth twilight. The last moments of the sacrificed boy with a stake in his chest. Illusions to illusions. The witch and the stake of illusions can pierce naught but illusions. First game, 6th, 7th, and 8th twilights. 3 corpses lying in the closed room of the singing girl. Illusions to illusions. Illusions are the blind girl's song. Illusion of a closed room. Well done. Yes, you really are splendid. That was a risky game from the start. What if the guy really wanted to see the dead face anyway and just stepped inside? That's what it means to abandon oneself to fate. That's what your roulette is, isn't it? Let us continue. Second game, first twilight. The 6 with their stomachs split in the closed room chapel. Illusions to illusions. The gold truth locks the lock of illusions. Second game, second twilight. The 2 who are close cannot even be close as corpses. Illusions to illusions. Illusions who have fulfilled their role do not leave even a corpse behind. Second game, 4th, 5th, and 6th twilights. In Natsui's closed room, none are left alive. Earth to earth. No one would dispute that a coffin is a closed room. Second game, 7th and 8th twilights. The 2 sliced to death by the red-eyed illusion. Earth to earth. Illusions to illusions. No illusion can create a corpse. Every time the blade passed through Claire's body, golden flower petals flew everywhere. The petals covering her heart were being torn away bit by bit. The illusion of the witch was breaking down and becoming flower petals. Third game, first twilight. 6 corpses connected by the linked closed rooms. Illusions to illusions. In a closed room ring, the end and the beginning overlap. Third game, second twilight. The corpses of mother and child lay together in the rose garden. Earth to earth, no falsehoods in their final moments as told. Third game, fourth, fifth, and sixth twilights. 3 corpses lying in the mansion. Earth to earth, no falsehoods in their final moments are told. Third game, seventh and eighth twilights. The corpses of husband and wife lay exposed under the arbor. Earth to earth, the obvious culprit wields a mutable blade. Fourth game, first twilight. A massacring storm sweeps through the dining hall. Illusions to illusions. Tales woven by the gold truth return to illusions. Fourth game, second twilight. The 2 youths face a trial and pass away together. Illusions to illusions. Tales woven by the gold truth return to illusions. Fourth game, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth twilights. None of the runaways are left alive. Earth to earth, illusions to illusions. Silent corpses adorned by fiction. Fourth game, ninth twilight, and none shall be left alive. Earth to earth, illusions to illusions. When fiction is shut up inside a cat box, it becomes truth. Over and over again, Claire's body was sliced by the pitch-black sword. As proof, the chapel was now filled with golden flower petals, which danced around like gold snow. It's beautiful. Who wouldn't want their last moments to be like that? The gold snow was like confetti at the finale of a show. The curtains were finally falling on the stage that was her. Then, one final question. Sure. Claire slowly raised her hands. The sword she held became golden rose petals and melted away. She stood there, arms wide, waiting for the final strike. Who am I? Illusions to illusions. The promised reaper lowers the curtains on the tale, regardless of the witch's will. The pitch-black blade that Will swung high cut down Claire's form. At the same time, she was blown away by a gust of wind. Her human form crumbled in an instant and became a storm of golden flower petals, and was torn apart. After she was blown away, a golden heart remained in midair. But it too was swallowed by the torrent of wind and broke down into flower petals. The gold torrent of wind swirled around the chapel. Then the swirl of petals scattered out of existence and vanished. A few remaining petals danced around like snowflakes, and those final vestiges decorated the chapel beautifully. A beam of light lit the center of the stage. There stood Claire, whose tale had ended. Then slowly, softly, she faced the audience and bowed. Applause spread throughout the room. The long tale she just finished telling was being given a massive applause. It went on and on, and on and on. The stage slowly sunk into the darkness of oblivion. Behind the darkness and the curtain, Claire continued to bow in front of the unending applause and disappeared. People are born with sin and live life to obtain forgiveness from someone. Or perhaps they are born with riddles and live life searching for someone to solve them. Here, all of her riddles have been solved, leaving no lingering regrets behind. People are riddles. They want someone else to solve their riddle. They live life wanting someone else to solve the riddle that they are. The most difficult riddle in the world. They want someone to look at the riddle they are, and they want that person to solve it. For her, that wish has been granted. Her soul will wander no longer. Sleep in endless peace in your catbox coffin. Though there had been so many golden flower petals flitting about like a blizzard, not a single one remained. Everything had become dust, vanishing as though there had been nothing there in the first place, and all was silent once more. Come to think of it, even the sound of rain is gone. The rain must have stopped at some point. Meeting you was her salvation. I hope so. She cursed herself and her inescapable dead-end fate, and gave up. Meeting you, a happy miracle in her eyes, saved her in a way nothing else could. So don't make that face. Huh. That was a pretty tasteful ending. For you. Awa only told me to carry out the funeral. Well, I pretty much just called a facilitator, you, and let you do everything. Thank you, Will. In Claire's place, I want to thank you. Thanks for cutting off all the lingering regrets of a me of a different fate. I thought I'd see a bit more head-clutching and panic from you. I understand now. I realize how happy my life has been. If fate has toyed with me, and if I was living in another world, I might have gotten stuck in the same dead end of fate. However, thanks to an extremely improbable bit of good luck, I live in this world. I now know how much that means, how much it's worth. What's up? Why the surprised look? I thought decent witches didn't exist. I might have to change that theory. Don't worry, no need to change it. I only joined that kid's game to kill some time. And though I lost, I enjoyed playing. That kid died without folding up her game board. I just took charge of cleaning up as thanks to her for letting me play, and because it's the loser's duty. I was sure you'd be a lot crueler than this. Crueler? I thought this would be a cruel game that neglects the heart. Yes, it was a cruel game. Though she claimed the game was fantasy, I brought you along and made it end as mystery. The illusion of the witch has been spectacularly crushed, and my little bit of revenge is complete. This tale of intertwined love ends thanks to an absolute and certain willpower. Out of respect for that certain willpower, the Witch of Certainty made that kid a witch for just 2 days. Even within this limited span of 2 days, I've been able to enjoy an endless kaleidoscope. I won't be bestowing my favor, so no miracle will occur. However, even this ending is something that child wished for. I wonder which truth actually lay at the end of this endless tale. Who knows? Not being able to say that for sure is what makes it a cat box. When you open the cat box, you get a tale where no trace of the mansion remains, and no one except Ava survives. Now that Ava has died without saying anything, all the truth is inside the cat box. Endless possibilities, all kept within a limited box. Now that I think about it, maybe the whole island where she lived and died was the Golden Land. If you call a cat box a Golden Land, that is. By the way, Badler has written up the most fun tale imaginable of the inside of the cat box. You mean that book in Beatrice's coffin? That's right. It's the happiest possible tale for her, which he thought up himself. It was a really fun, love-filled, happy tale. I also think that tale was the most fitting one to put in her coffin. No, that's wrong. Huh? You heard Claire. You are her hope and her salvation. More than anything else, you living on in happiness will become her salvation. Right. Live happily. That's all you need to do to be that kid's miracle. Yes. I'll live happily enough for the both of us. I'm surprised you found this kid. Didn't you have to search through about 200,000 of them in the vast sea? Such trivialities are all I'm capable of. And now the funeral's over. As promised, I've released the barrier. Once you leave, time will start moving again like normal. So you're done with us now. If I don't get back quickly, Diana will start scratching the curtains. We weren't together long, but thank you for your help. So long. Be happy. For the sake of the hundreds of thousands of other yous. When he left the chapel, a beautiful after-rain sky stretched out above him. That sky, which was a mix of rain clouds, gaps of sunlight, and the tint of twilight, had a beauty to it that couldn't be described in words. Will slowly descended the stone stairs, stepping through puddles. Then he waved without looking back, and left the chapel behind. His form and footprints gradually faded away until there was no trace left. Okay, time for me to disappear too. Goodbye, Leon. I have you to thank as well. I believe I said some fairly inconsiderate things to you. You have my apologies. You taught me something very important. What is it? No, it's nothing. It's been a century since anyone's thanked me, so I wasn't sure how to respond. Bernkastel shrugged, then floated up into the air. Then she looked up at the beautiful 7 colors of light shining through the stained glass, and spoke as though someone was looking down on her from there. Aurora, was that enough of an answer check for you? If you still don't get it, why not gather the other observer witches and have a tea party or something? Then you can listen to their theories. I mean, so I won't go any further than this. There are no witches who don't think. After all, witches who don't think either die or turn to seaweed. Yes, now you can look back and have a drink, while seeing how much of your theory was right. I'm tired of playing the part of the bad guy, and of being a Miko. You're done with me now. Bye, Leon. And bye to you too, observer witches. Bernkastel burst and disappeared. A single gold flower petal glittered. Leon picked it up. It was the only trace of a miracle that remained in this chapel. At that time, cheery voices could suddenly be heard. It was the relatives. They came out of the waiting room one by one. So this is where you were, Leon. I was looking for you. Mom, my apologies. I was just thinking about something.
Looks like the rain's finally stopped. Finally got some good weather. Everyone, let us return to the mansion. I've been told Beatrice's funeral is over.
Dad, where's the head?
You'll be here in a sec. Today was pretty crazy, and playing along with Dad's little funeral show was a real pain.
You shouldn't say that. It was a very important ceremony. That's right. I think it was very important for Father. I'm starving. Goto-san, think you can cook something up for us?
Yes, ma'am. I'll prepare some tea at once. Where's Leon? Lend me a hand.
Our family head, there you are. As Kinzo came out after the others, Leon ran up to him.
You did very well today. Beatrice's funeral's now complete.
Yes, and I'm sure that Beatrice's soul was saved.
How could you know that?
I was with Beatrice until a second ago, and I saw her leave on her journey with no regrets. That's how I know.
I guarantee it. I see. If you say it, then it must be so.
The relatives left the chapel one by one. Leon left too, giving Kinzo a shoulder to lean on. A beam of sunlight peeked through the clouds, looking like a staircase leading up to heaven. Thank you for the stretch, Lork. You guys at home, make sure you also take the chance to stretch. Make sure you're not slouching in your seats. Thank you, thank you. That was nice. That was very happy, despite... I mean, I like how they keep saying Claire's tale was a happy one. And it's like, oh yeah, it was a big murder show. Great. So everything's good now, right? We're at the end, right? Nothing bad could possibly happen, right? We're even friends with Bird now. Everything's fantastic. I really like that the scene with Will and Claire at the end there. The song that plays is called Golden Nocturne, and there is a vocal version of it, which I see you guys mentioned in the chat. There's actually like a few tracks in Umineko that have vocal versions that are not used in the actual visual novel. So if you're interested in the music, that would be something to look up. But you might be asking... Actually, no, let me talk about this first. So I think the way that Will solves Claire's puzzles is very clever, because it's like the author wants to give us the answers without giving us the answers, right? It's like he finally gives us the big clue. If you still didn't get what happened, like here's your like cryptic big clue for you to solve it without actually telling you. Because remember, Ryukishi still wants you to think, right? Even though he's giving us more and more hints, he doesn't want us to stop thinking. He wants us to still be thinking about these puzzles and mysteries. So if you figured out Beatrice's identity, so to say, then a lot of those crimes make a lot more sense in how they were done. Now, I'm not going to go over them yet. I'll wait until the end of episode 8 to go over some of that. But I think it's very clever because it's very true to Will's personality. He is respecting the heart, and he is answering Claire, and he knows that Claire wants someone to solve her riddles, but she wants someone to solve it in this respectful way that is still kind of riddly in response. So it's very interesting and shows like that dynamic. It shows like Will's character and then Beatrice / Claire's personality as well. So it's a very clever way of like veiling all this, even though it gives you pretty much most of what you need to know. That being said, you might be wondering, hey Kiro, episode 7 seemed kind of short, don't you think? And right now, technically, technically yes, right? But this is only our 4th stream of episode 7, and we're already finished. But episode 7 is no longer or shorter than, on average, the other Umineko episodes. That's because the tea party is very long. The tea party in episode 7 is the longest tea party, and if we factor in the tea party time, the length of the episode becomes pretty much the same as the length of the other episodes. Yeah, the tea is piping hot, and I will tell you right now that I am very much looking forward to the tea party, which we will do. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it tomorrow or the day after. Maybe I'll give myself a day to recover my voice again, and then do it on Sunday. I will announce it on Twitter, of course, but you don't really want to miss the tea party. Let me put it that way. You don't want to miss this tea party. I'll just leave it at that. It's a really good tea party. And then not only will it kind of wrap up episode 7, but it'll also segue us into episode 8, which is the last episode. We are finally getting close to the end of our journey. How many hours are we at? Let me check Steam. So we are at... Oh, we're like... I thought we were like at 125 hours? According to, in general, my playtime. I thought we were closer to 140. Okay. So, yeah, there's still a bit to go. I originally said I wanted to finish episode 8 by the end of summer. I think I might be able to finish it by the end of September if we spread them out, or unless I, like, do them all in a row. We'll see. I do have a couple games I want to do in August, so I'll kind of juggle around that. So, Umineko might not be once a week, but we will keep it up so that we don't fall behind. Yeah, it's crazy that it's close to finishing. Can you believe we started this back in, like... Was it October or November that we started last year? Crazy, right? Who would have thought we would get this far? I mean, I resolved to finish it already, regardless, but, like... Yeah, it's been wild. And I'm glad you guys have been hanging on for the ride. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm glad you guys are getting into it and putting your theories in the chat and putting your reactions in the chat. I wish I could have wiped my memory and just gone through it again so I could get, like, first-time reactions from myself, but alas. So yeah, stay tuned. Either tomorrow or Sunday, we will do the tea party for episode 7. It's a long tea party, but we'll still be able to do it in one stream. And it's a really good one, so... Yeah, thank you for coming, guys, and thank you so much for tuning in after my little... return after the eye surgery. I really appreciate it. Again, tomorrow on YouTube, I will be putting up a video on my YouTube channel, just kind of going over how the eye surgery went and details about that, so if you're interested, or if you're watching this VOD on YouTube, it would already have been up. Just to tell you how it went and maybe a little bit of the science behind it. Let's have a look at Twitch and give someone a raid. Let's see who is streaming now. Oh, Melly's doing karaoke. That's exciting. Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. And so stick around for a raid. Go say hi to Melly. She is doing some amazing karaoke. And I will see you guys next time for more Umineko Episode 7 Tea Party. It'll be a fun ride. I promise you. Thanks guys. Bye-bye.